start?
I don't know if these microphones are the right ones or not, so, because it's set up for,
Can I file a complaint waiting online for work session to start? Ha ha ha. Yeah, let's start.
There's a cheat sheet up there in there.
oh, that's right, sorry, forgot about
Before
that.
y'all start, just
Yep.
to say Dana was talking, if y'all want to, if you've already looked at your books, it's like a department that you're like, hey, we know we're good with that department, no need new sticking around. We've got every department head here, so if y'all say, hey, you can release such and such, we cut some, if you want them here, they're here.
What is this for?
I mean, I assume you're running it. Are you running this?
Yep.
You're gonna start at revenue?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not on air yet, but
Yeah, we'll just.
I think that's just a matter of time.
And
Yeah. Go ahead.
Do I need to push this to?
Just tell us what
Probably
page
good.
you start on it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought we'd probably just go over the budget highlights first. That's page 1. This just kind of gives you an overview of where we're going to end up at the end of this year, and then what the revenues and expenses are budgeted in the budget, and then where we'll end up at the end of next year. So for general fund, it looks like we're going to end at about 31 million. I have revenues budgeted at 19 million. I have a borrowing for parkland in there, but that is dependent on if you want to do the parkland purchase at 6.7 million. That gives us total revenue about 24 million. Total expenditures, the department expenditures are 16 million. Then I've got the parkland purchase pulled out because it's a big capital expenditure at 6.7. And then the transfers out to capital projects, debt service, and state street aid fund run about 25 million. So that's 48 million total. And that should land us about 7 million at the end of next year.
On the revenue,
Yes.
did you get any guidance from the state as to where we're gonna end up?
The only guidance that I got so far is be conservative. I do have a meeting with the comptroller's office planned this week to see if there's anything else we can that'll give us some help. And then Kenny sent me some forecasting information, and that one is the end of this week, I believe. So hopefully we'll be able to clarify that. I was very conservative on the revenue.
And I don't want to jump ahead, but on sales tax revenue, you didn't forecast that large of a decline.
I didn't, but based on what we budgeted, let's see, that is on page
8.
thank you.
Yeah, you got $9 million is what you believe is going to come in sales tax revenue.
Yeah, and I think we're going to end at 11 million this year. So I cut it down by 2 million. Now I'll keep looking at that because I don't really know
What page you said that was on?
page 8. I'm not going to really know the effects of that until next month. We'll really have a good idea of what the closure did to us. And then we'll see how we reopen. I do look at the businesses themselves, and I track sort of the top 25 because the top 25 businesses bring in over half of our revenue. And the top 25 that I'm looking at are essential services, basically. It's the Krokers, the Publix, those. So I'm looking and trying to gauge that. So it is a difficult thing, but I hopefully we'll have a clearer picture in the next few weeks.
More accurate picture before we go to budget
I will
reading?
do my best, yes.
Because I mean, March is not going to be the bad month. It's going to be a little bit bad, but April.
Yeah, but that'll be our first indicator.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully with these resources coming forward, we'll be able to at least get a better picture of it.
And then the other big revenue item is hotel tax, and it's going to be really
It's going to
bad.
be, yes,
Yeah.
it's going to, these 2 months are going to be really hard. We've had a few hotels that have asked us to waive late fees and ask for more time to pay because their occupancy has dropped significantly.
Yeah,
But we know that one's going to be hit.
I heard from 80% to like 15%.
To 15, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's going to be devastating.
Yeah.
And on that one, you were pretty optimistic, I thought, on the hotel motel tax that will come in next year.
Yeah, well, I think again, I'm just gonna have to kind of see how this plays out. I'm hoping economically what I had initially heard was this is going to be hard, but it's not going to last that long. So I'm hoping that that's the case, but I will constantly be looking at this revenue in the next few weeks.
Other than capital improvements and things of that nature for parks, is that used for anything else?
The hotel motel tax?
Yeah.
No, it's just capital for parks.
Are we expecting a drop in the share that the state, as far as like the per head reimbursement rate dropping?
That's already factored in here. They have done a drop. It went from 145 to 126 per person,
Okay.
but that's factored in here. They gave those numbers, and I went ahead and used their numbers.
And that's just the number they're going with, regardless of what it.
Where's that?
That's what they're budgeting.
Okay.
That's what they gave us to budget.
Page 9.
I thought we were up to 150.
146 was this year.
Page 9.
Must have rounded up.
I didn't mean to off track you.
No, you're fine.
Okay, out of that
That's
money,
part of it too. So
out of the per person count, do we have a total figure? I hadn't looked at it, so.
oh, you like a total
Difference
revenue?
between 126 and 145?
Oh, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't have that calculated.
You can do this.
If you give me half a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so.
I want to say what you're saying.
I believe the state had said that they were already down for 1 month, 872. They were expecting the next same thing for the next month. 872 million.
About $658,000.
How much?
$658,000 less.
And what was it? What was that for?
That was the state shared revenues.
There's an amount of money that we get per person in Wilson County from the state.
That's what you were telling me about earlier.
Yes.
With the population.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at probably between the amount of money that they gave us. They had, what was $400,000 that they were going to give us, and then they turned around and doubled that, went to
The
$800,000.
grant, $818,000.
And that's not we don't pay that back. That's just a
No,
grant.
that's-
correct?
Yeah.
So that's going to offset that number, probably, is it not?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not, I mean, it depends on what you want to,
Huh?
it's for specific items, so it depends on what you want to use it for, but
Right, sure.
yes.
It doesn't really offset it because
No.
it can't go to those items.
Yeah, it can only go to certain items. That's another thing that's it's not in the budget, the 818,000 yet, because I wanted to keep it out until I got your feedback as far as what we might borrow it, or not borrow, but what we might ask for. So right now we have a mini pumper for the fire department at $267,000. The city hall roof repair at $100,000. Replacing the HVAC units at $70,000, and then a new mobile emergency command center at $400,000. Right now, the command center is a trailer, and I could stand up in it, but I think our other guys can't. So a lot of them were having hunched over when the tornadoes.
Yeah, I think when I was talking to Michael and them, they had pulled that idea.
Oh, do they?
You have to get with them just to make sure, but I
Yeah.
think that they.
grant.
Yeah, and the commission can always substitute something for that. That was something we talked about. What they had was serviceable. It worked well. But if you put a lot of people in, of course, it was tight. So from a dream perspective, if you could get a mobile command thing, but if you wanted to apply that 4,000 towards something else, that'd be.
What are the categories that it can be used for?
Oh, there's IT hardware. Did I have that list on me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's emergency
Road projects,
services like
emergency services, sewer maintenance projects, and
Yeah.
COVID. I think
Yeah.
those were the 5. The COVID response.
Well, on a scale from 1 to 10, how bad is the mobile community
Oh,
center needed?
it
It worked
not-
well.
Yeah, it worked well. This is just if the city had no other choices, we threw those in there just for opportunities for you guys to have something to think about. But there's other things you could do if it was some kind of improvement in the community, addition to a facility, upgrade to a facility, generators.
And on the HVAC unit, we had talked about moving that. So now, need to be replaced versus?
Yeah,
just
well,
new?
there's about 8 on the roof, and we'd already
Oh, there's 8
replaced,
of them?
we'd already replaced one this year, and they're small units, and they're about, what, 9
They're
grand a
like from,
piece?
they're like from 1986.
Yeah, they're old.
And
So
so
we
we've
were
been
we were
like
gonna put the
piecemealing
general.
these things. We've spent a lot of money on them to keep them.
We just had
so-
one go down, and the condenser alone was, what,
Yeah.
4 grand? So we knew it was coming, so the grant's actually a blessing because it can be applied towards that. Relocating it after we got to looking at what it would cost to fix the roof, it was cheaper to correct the issue with the roof on the backside, which was like 90,000, I think, rather than to replace the whole roof. The roof itself is pretty solid. It's just that one spot in the back that creates the issue, and we've got that temporarily solved. So the other thing, but maybe the command center, we can give you some other options between now and first reading that you could think on for that other 400K. It could be a series of things or one big thing. Maybe a pump station that's older or something like that that needs some upgrades or something with some new, older maintaining or some other things.
Yeah. The next page, on page 2, is the emergency services fund. I'm estimating we'll end with 2.7 million. That's actually about $1 million over what we anticipated last year, and that is because of Project Sam. That we didn't budget any revenue for that, and that was about $1 million into the fund. So we actually will have about $1 million surplus in the emergency services fund at the end of this year.
What page?
Two.
Dan, do you remember if that included the new rebuilds for the SEVA buildings? And so,
No.
So there'll be some additional monies coming from the buildings that were destroyed during the tornado that'll come in as well through their fees. There's about 3 structures over there, I believe, that they'll have some rebuild fees on. I want to say one of them was close to 2, I don't remember the number, but it's quite a bit in fees for those. It's not added into the budget right now, but we should see forthcoming.
And I've got revenues budgeted at 2.6. I'm keeping the tax rate at 16 cents for now. As far as expenditures go, personnel is 1.9 million, operating 357,000, and then the payment for the trucks is 300,000, which that says transfer out to DCF. That's just debt service fund. Total expenditures are 2.6. We will end. I'm projecting we'll end a little higher than we started. Based on these.
How many years are left on the truck payment?
It was 11 years. I believe it was 11. There's 11.
I want to say we're at 4 after this year, because I think we looked at financing
right.
options, and I think we were at 5. We're halfway there, so I think there should be 4.
Does this personnel count include the deputy chief?
Yes, it does. It does not include 6 firefighters, which Jamie has requested in the budget. A full year, 6 in a full year would be 436,000. We compromised and said maybe a half year, since the building is not going to be, is not going to be up the full year. So it would be a half year at 218. Maybe we hire them in January and get them trained, and then that's our revenue would be in about that time. So it wouldn't be a cash flow issue at all. So
Is there any way we could phase that in, like 222? That way by the end of the year, you get all 6?
you can always do that.
When do we think the fire station will be built though?
Probably it's going to start bidding around the end of this year, the first of next year. And then so
Talking about calendar year or fiscal?
I'm sorry, calendar year, the end of like December, January is when we're
Oh,
expecting
So it
to.
won't be built on this fiscal year at all?
No,
No. Okay.
Once again, architects and engineers.
Yeah, it's still in design phase, and that's one thing good about it. We got time on our hands that if you put it in a budget, of course, we're not going to spend it until that point. So if it was in the budget, we're not going to spend it until probably about 3 to 6 months out from the station actually physically opening. So you can bring those people in and get them transitioned. So. But yes, you could do that.
So basically, it sounds like, Mayor, that TDOT is designing our fire building.
Well, it wouldn't be built in this budget at all then. It wouldn't be finished at all, would it?
no.
But they would take draws in this budget
Yes,
as far as construction.
construction, yeah, this
Yeah, but
construction will
they-
begin in this budget.
Yeah.
It just won't be completed
You wouldn't
until
be manning it in this
probably
budget.
early next fiscal year.
But these 6 people are needed now, like now. They're not for the North Station.
They're not necessarily for the new station, not all of them, no. Jamie can answer those questions more better. than
We
I
actually had a larger number of long terms, about 15, but he wanted to go and get 6 this budget cycle. And I believe it
can.
was,
Start getting them trained and.
Yeah. and then
So you don't have the
once the
whole 15
station
all at
opens
once.
further down the road, asking for the other staff.
When was it that we got that money for the, construction?
We did the bond last August.
Last August.
So we bought the land and we'll be paying the architects this year out of it. And then we'll start paying the,
So it's gonna take them a year to design a building, a block building. Is that what I'm hearing?
We asked the same questions, and that's standard with all the other cities that we checked with that did the same thing. I know it's disappointing, but it is
It's not
mechanical,
disappointing, it's just overall, it's just statement
Yeah.
is what it
with
is.
mechanical and all the other things.
I think it's actually just, a way for them to suck up our funds. Yeah. They go charged by, how many hours are there in a year, because that's what we're paying. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Did I say, you heard me when I said
Yes.
ridiculous. So,
Yes, sir.
going on the
I
capital
don't
projects.
disagree.
Sorry.
I don't disagree, but have you tried to have to call a plumber for your house lately? Nobody shows up.
No, actually,
Yeah.
I do on.
But you know the point I'm making.
I do,
Nobody
yeah.
shows up.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
That supply and command, or demand, demand.
As far as capital projects funds, I'm estimating we ended up about 4.4. Revenues, the grant revenues, the reimbursements are 10. Transfers from the general fund, I have at 24, and then I have a sale of notes or bond at 10. I don't actually believe that we'll have to borrow that because these are multi-year projects, but the expenditures increased quite a bit this year. And so I don't want to deplete our reserves to the point of, not showing something in general fund reserves. So I put the $10 million borrowing in there to show TDOT that we are committed to funding these projects, but I don't honestly believe that we're going to have to borrow those funds.
On page 3 now.
Page 3. State Street aid, I've got us ending at 510. Budgeted revenues, the 1 million, that is the state shared revenue portion. I've got to transfer in from general fund about 600,000 to cover the 1.7 in expenditures. And we'd end about 400,000. The employee benefit fund, we have about a 1.6 million fund balance. I've got the revenues in, that's transfers from the general fund. That's basically the cost of the insurance at 2.6. Our expenditures would be 2.6, and so that roughly balances out.
Is the insurance in there?
Yes.
Health insurance? I thought we had made a new arrangement and it was going to go down significantly.
Well, we've added more employees too, so that offsets it a bit. But we did have a 3% increase, but the way the contract is written, we're getting $100,000 rebate off of this year's on next year's. So we were able to at least keep it roughly the same as last year.
What's our total exposure under insurance? Our maximum as a city.
We have 1.6 mil in claims. That we're-
Total.
1.6 million that we negotiate with Cigna for claims. Anything over that, we're not responsible for. Cigna covers. Anything under that, we split with Cigna, which is why we're getting a $100,000 rebate this year.
I mean, the employees generally happy with what we're offering.
We haven't heard any complaints about Cigna this year. Very few. They seem to be very happy with it.
Depends on which employee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Overall, it's been
Yeah.
positive.
very positive. We do have one little wrinkle coming up that we'll be putting out, but it's not out yet.
Debt service fund, that one, I I figured revenues at 701, that's the impact fees. Transfers in from the general fund are 936. Expenditures 1.8. Those are just our debt service payments, so there's no wiggle room there. Ending at about $100,000. Page 4, drug
You know what the
fund.
total debt is
Oh,
currently?
I don't have that on me.
It's fine.
I'm
Just
sorry.
email it another
Okay.
day.
I'll get it to you. Drug fund, that the revenues keep sliding a bit on the drug fund. They've got some capital expenditures in there. So we'll start at 248 and then end about 115.
Oh, okay, all right.
Top.
So the department expenditures that you're talking about through the drug fund.
Mhm.
My understanding is there's been some changes in the asset forfeiture law. How's that going to affect it?
Maybe Michael can, or police can help
Okay.
discuss that one more in depth.
My understanding is it's going to be just pretty stout changes are.
Where do the revenues from the drug fund come from?
Seizures and what else is there?
Court
Fines.
fines, court fines to court.
The seizures from equipment bought with stuff that's bought with drug assets or drug money, then they can be seized by the cities as asset forfeiture and then sold at auction. And then that money goes into our drug fund and they're able to use that for supposedly one-time fee or one-time purchase of equipment. I think we bought cars.
Lots of cars over the years,
Bought cars over the years and
but there's 2 in the budget this year through CID for detective cars that come out of drug fund.
I think the point is it can only be used for certain things.
yeah, it's just one time. I mean, you could buy, investigative equipment, whether it be listening devices, whatever it may be, that kind of thing.
Stormwater fund, I'm estimating we're ended at 796,000. Revenues, I'm budgeting at 372. Expenditures total 273, so we'll end a little bit higher at 895. And then page 5, sewer fund, estimating ending at 14. Revenues at 9. Expenditures total 10, but 3 of that is capital, ending at 12. There were some department head requests specifically for sewer that were cut from the budget, not included. Some reclassifications, and then an office manager pay increase, which the office manager pay increase, we did a reclassification on the office manager last year, but we didn't do a pay adjustment on that one. So we kind of feel like that one should be included.
Is there a rate increase in the sewer?
Yes, there will likely be.
I mean, it's already budgeted in, or do
Yes,
you know what the percentage is?
it's probably gonna be a 3%. I think.
3?
Yeah, it was an oversight last year. That's the only one that was an oversight, should have been taken care of last year, and inadvertently the department had forgot to ask last year.
The pay increase.
I thought it was per our ordinance.
No. The office manager increase.
I'm sorry about that.
I'm surprised the employee didn't bring it up.
Oh, she did this year.
I imagine so.
But
Mhm.
it's well deserved.
Yeah.
The next page just goes over what is not in the budget, what things that we cut out. There's no COLA, there's no cost of living increase in here. There's also no merit bonuses in here. The 1.5, those are the totals that it would cost if we were to add one or all or any of those back in.
Question on that.
Uh-huh.
On the COLA, this line up here, I'm believing is SSA COLA for 2020 is 1.6%.
That
So
was,
the 1.6% is basically the adjustment in salaries to keep it even with last year's for inflation.
that's what it would be,
Okay,
but that's not in
but it's
here.
not in the budget. Yes.
Correct, yeah. That's what Social Security Administration's COLA was.
Gotcha.
TCRS, I just put this in there just because it was a savings. Our required funding rate decreased from 10.73 to 7.04. That just means that we will save 377,000 in funding retirement this year. It'll just go down, decrease by that amount. So we were able to save some there.
That doesn't seem normal.
It is.
Did it go down?
TCRS, they're very well funded and their investments do very well. And
Okay.
so yeah.
Their payout's horrible though.
That's why they
Yeah.
reduced the rate.
I've seen
That was
decreases in the
true
past.
pension supplements. If you're going to depend, if you're going to depend on TCRS to live on after you retire, you pretty much need to be in a box under Shelby Street Bridge. What? Ain't no argument to that. I'm on it.
The rest below are some department head requests. Some pay, most of them are pay scale adjustments. The police did request a expansion of their headquarters at 2.6 million. That was taken out of the budget. Planning had some pay increases. Streets had some reclassification pay increases. Garage N did as well. Codes was asking for 2 additional positions, and then electrical inspector positions, and then a permanent tech. Those were both pulled, and then a pay adjustment for the codes office manager. And that was not included in the budget.
Question on the streets. Why is the increase different for the two? Reclassification of Inspector 1, reclassification of Inspector 1 to 2. It looks to be the same, but the dollar amounts seem to be different.
I think it's off just a little bit because it was based on an individual employees, and they were just off.
$3.
I know.
Okay.
It was rounding.
On where?
It's 2 positions, but $3 difference.
We'll pay you.
7.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did we kind of skip over some stuff? Planning?
Like I said, there's some pay adjustments for planning. And police had some pay adjustments too.
Yeah, the requests and all those were pulled out.
Okay, question on planning. Our city planner, and then we've got a deputy city planner. And what is the justification, just out of curiosity, for those 2 positions? That's pretty solid increase in pay there.
I think the city planner wanted to, the city planner pay puts that at the same pay scale as the other department heads.
Mhm.
That was that request.
I think they were skipped a few years ago when other department heads got raised.
Can we check on that and verify that?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's department head pay.
Yeah.
I have a question. The 4 pieces of land that you're looking at, is that what the parkland purchase of 6.7 million? Is that what that is?
Yes, ma'am. That's just if you did buy it all. We just want
Right.
to put that number in there so you'd have the number. There's 2 pieces of property in particular that they had, when I say moving pieces, they were just, they wanted, if they sold it to the city would have to let them use that in their calculations as open space if there was a development there or for density or rezoning. One in particular, the Boss property, they wanted maybe like a trade-off. The city would extend sewer in lieu of paying for the property. That would be sort of the trade-off. And then that property that the city took, which would be $85,000, or it would then be used as open space toward any future development for them as well. So I didn't put all that in there just because it was too complicated.
Mhm. Can we not scale back on that a little bit to cover some of these cost of living raises and salaries and it just seems kind of unfair. The city's going out and purchasing
Well,
land.
that
and
money
the
comes
police-
from the hotel motel tax fund, and you can't use that for raises.
Do what now?
The hotel motel tax is for capital improvement projects.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And Kenny, it's not all of that property that would be used for open space, it's just a percentage.
Yeah, just for their calculation purposes.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's a good plan though.
We just kind of don't seem fair.
No, it doesn't.
Unless you have any questions on the.
Are we
just the
laying
summary.
anybody off?
No.
Okay, everybody I know pretty much has either lost their job, or they've taken a hefty pay cut, or their business is in distress. So we're good. We're not,
We're not laying anybody
and
off.
we haven't cut anybody's pay.
Mm-mm.
So we're doing way better than the private sector, way better.
Yes.
And
The only thing we eliminated was any increase, the COLA or merit, but everything else.
yeah, it just did seem like the right thing to do with the state of the economy to be asking. Everybody here that we've talked to, all the department heads, they understand they're blessed and the city's blessed. And don't get me wrong, of course, you'd always love those things and we definitely appreciate the thought. And if something was to change in the future, it'd not be as bad as we thought, of course. But right now it seems somewhere between 30 and 50% declines in some areas. So we were trying to be extremely conservative, so.
Well, that'd be when people get their jobs back or get their income back or get their business back, it might be worthy of a conversation, but
Yeah.
it'd be a pretty tough pill to swallow if I'm sitting out there and lost my job and everybody else is getting a raise.
Yeah. Yep. I always want to ask too, before we move on to the next thing, I know we're going through pretty quickly. Does everybody want all the department heads that are here to stay, just in case you have any questions? There's any that you feel like through IT or planning or, we're good either way.
Stay on your calendar, stay on your
Okay.
schedule.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll let Kenny and Sheila go over executive budgets. If you have anything that you want to point out.
Did you do my part of City Hall?
Yes, the city budgets, your city manager budget, your.
You can just keep on trucking, Dana.
Okay.
Just stay on it.
All right.
We did quite a bit of cutting. There was
What page are you on?
It was starting at, 17.
17?
Yes.
yeah.
That's, 17 is just elections. There's nothing there.
No, it's not.
18 is the community grants. I just kept that funding the same, as last year. And then we'll do the same thing, spread that out, later if you so choose.
There be any issue to moving the RTA grant, increasing the balance on this by 30 grand to this? Just showing that for what it is, a grant, and then capturing the RTA fees under just RTA and the maintenance for the station.
That's true, yeah. No, would you still make the contribution, but it'd be more under
But show it
grants?
under this.
Yeah, because we have a separate fee we're paying the RTA based on population that's required by law.
We do, and the RT actually sent a note, and we did include the $30,000 contribution in the budget for next year. They've asked for an increase. We're not asking for that in here. I think the mayor was part of those conversations as well. I did put the 30 in there, knowing that might not be feasible this year. And I wasn't going to respond back to the RT until I got some feedback back from the Board of Commissioners. I will give them kudos that they have started on the parking lot. So we're glad to see that has come to fruition. That was one of the points in the past that we've insisted upon. I think January 30th point out the high points.
Yeah.
Most everything reduced and then we cut the 30 out.
Yeah, pretty much the budget stayed pretty much status quo. City manager budget, that's on page 19. Didn't change very much. City attorney, that hasn't changed. Economic development, when we reduced, they took out the city beautiful fees.
Okay.
Nope, sorry.
No. Let's go back to the city attorney. What's that line?
Okay.
20.
20?
It's already approved.
Really?
Oh, oops. Sorry.
You did that a few times.
Sorry. Some things can't change, so
She was wishing ahead.
yeah. I just
So
kind of throw them in
the
there.
entire
Good job.
city attorney budget for just the city attorney, that's not legal fees for public works and road projects, things like that. That's on an outside category?
Mhm.
Where is that at?
In the capital projects fund. There's legal fees in the capital project
Okay.
fund, but most of it comes out of.
So what we're talking about is the $293,000 that goes to our city attorney who comes to the meetings, or
250. Well, and it's
what now?
230. That line item, the rest is, it's just that one line of contractual services. That's where his fees. So it's 250.
Oh, that's 250,000, but then you add operating supplies and,
With the printing and duplicating and publication,
Mhm.
a lot of that has to do with our city code and our land development code. We have to pay to have that updated.
Uh-huh.
So that comes
Yeah.
out there. And we never know, depending on how many ordinances are passed that changes the city code or the land development code, and how many pages it affects is how much we have to pay. It's an unknown every year.
what does the 20,000 go for as far as the publications, reports, et cetera?
That's part of that updating our code and the
Okay.
land development code and.
So that's nothing to do with legal though. That's what we're doing in-house, right?
Right, it's
But
all
we put it under
in-house stuff.
legal. Why would we put it under legal instead of
It's just where
reproduction, papers?
It's where it's been and it's our laws.
It's just because it's related
It's
to
just
that.
way to, it makes it easier
So it
to
just
find
keeps
if you're researching what your expenses are, it's easier to put it under legal.
I mean,
Legally, you
it's the
have
city
to
code and the
publicly
land
notice.
development code, which is the laws of the city, which is legal.
Okay.
I noticed we don't have any training under this. Maybe Robert's rules or something.
Well, what's a big old elephant, right? So we might as well just go on out and talk about it now. Take the person out of the position and put the position for discussion, and, you know, we've had numerous problems on our hands with being able to make contact with the existing city attorney, and I think we've all discussed it at one point or another. Now, my question is, for that amount of money, can we hire someone who was in-house and on the staff, who would be here when needed? Or is there a way to work that out with him so that he can let us have one of his people who will be in this building during work hours?
Mayor, if the commission, if that's something that the city wishes to do, I could reach out to Gino and see if that could, before our May 11th meeting, get some information back to you to see if you could figure out to have somebody, you're talking about in-house, like Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
I could ask that question.
And then if you're gonna do that analysis, then we need to know, when we had Jason Holloman, how that worked out and how much that cost.
Make the comparison of the two.
And if you wanted to find somebody hard to get a hold of, it was Jason Holloman. A lot harder to get a hold of than people we have now.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you on one piece of this, okay? And that is that we cannot use Jason Holloman as the poster child.
He was our most recent.
Well, everybody makes mistakes. I mean, if hiring him was a mistake,
He was here for a long time.
well, that was another issue. He should have been gone a long time ago, but we're big enough now that an in-house attorney is needed desperately. There were numerous occasions when Kenny Martin was trying to find legal answers to legal questions and could not make contact with people. And that has been an ongoing problem. It's not going to get any better, and we're big enough now with the number of residents that we've got, you know, to farm it out and be part-time.
We need an analysis then.
Well,
Because
you can't use Jason Holloman as a piece of the analysis. I mean, you find out,
You certainly can analyze what it would cost to do that position. Do they need an assistant? Can we get the answer? I mean, this is basic.
well, now, I don't disagree with that
Information.
part, but when you're using an individual that you don't feel like did a good job as, like I said, the poster child for what you want to use, that's not a good analysis.
And then if we
What you want to
do
do is
that-
find out what that job would entail.
We-
Find out if there's an assistant needed, find out whether or not an assistant would be able to be brought in and a person would be able to do that job. Or I like the better, that I would rather have Gino say, look, $250,000, Here's Charles Michaels, and farm him out to us.
Well, there's quite a bit of research needs to be done there.
I'll get busy
Even when
on it.
Jason was here, when he went on vacation, we paid for that and we never got him. Couldn't get him for weeks.
Well, the city of Lebanon's got Andy Wright,
Plus an
And-
assistant.
and they're very well pleased with what he does.
So there's a good data point. Find out from Bernie what they pay to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't disagree that analysis needs to take place, but we just need to use the position as the analysis or as the point of that analysis. Just use the position, find out what it's going to cost and what we're going to get in return for that money.
Yeah, I can put something
We did
together.
that once before and we figured out City 11 was paying more for legal than
Yeah.
we are. But
I'll get it. I'll get y'all a current update. I'll get you a new update.
I think something that you've got to consider too, when you're talking about legal counsel, is that you can hire an attorney who's just right out of school or whatever, but there's certain experience that comes with those attorneys. And I think if you look at who we're using, it's a broad area of a lot of different experiences there that we can draw from. If you've got somebody on staff and their assistant, depending on what kind of law, what kind of experience they have. And if they're very, very good, we're not gonna get them for this anyway, most probably, because they're gonna make more money out somewhere else. So,
I will tell you that I've already gone and looked into this, and through the city of Hendersonville and some other places. And yeah, we can get exactly what we've got right now for the amount of money we're talking about, actually a little bit less. I already know that. So again, I think the world of our current city attorney and his staff, but part-time is part-time. And when it comes to legal matters, a lot of those are time sensitive. And that you may need an answer on something that fast, but you can't get in touch with them for 3 days because they didn't see the email. You got a problem on your hands.
let's get an analysis. This isn't the place to talk about all that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this is the only place to talk about all that.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do something, we need the information to make a good
No,
decision.
I agree
We don't
with
have any
You're
of
right.
that.
Yeah.
We're going on just conjecture right now. So,
I'll get that data together. I think you're on economic development, page 21.
Got to talk about it.
well, we need data though,
No, I was
right?
talking to him. He was,
Yeah, we got to have data.
no, I agree
I
with you.
mean, I saw City of Lebanon's cost and it was more than this. I've seen it. And you're saying you saw City of Hendersonville and it was less.
No.
We need
I'm
data.
saying that I looked at several, and City of Hendersonville was one, City of Lebanon was one. I mean, I've seen several cities where we've gone through and looked at those numbers to see what they could be. I agree with you. You're arguing with yourself because I'm not arguing with you. I agree with you.
Good. What else?
So we're on page 21 now.
Yeah, page 21, economic development. We cut 30,000 out of City Beautiful, cut some contractual services and the marketing down. So we reduced that budget by about 40,000.
What will that mean exactly? What services are going to be cut out specifically?
A lot of that was beautification efforts in the city that we do all throughout the city. So we typically don't spend the entire amount anyway, so we just reduced it. Most of the time that money, it just continues to roll over, some years more so than others, depending on the project we do with beautification around the city.
Were there plans for spending on the special census, which actually is a special census, but plan for spending on the census before the downturn?
Yes.
So we did plan to spend some on it.
Well, we'll put all the effort we could in it in conjunction with what the federal census is doing, yes, because the better those numbers come back, so the more we get on a return, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty common for us every few years to drop 30 or 40 grand on a special census, but this one is even more so important because of, placement of representatives and other stuff. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, and we're hoping that, of course, with everybody being at home, I'm not sure how that would work with the COVID-19, but we hope we get a real good
turnout for that, a lot of responsiveness. And we were actually, I think we were talking to Mr. Ely, and I think Travis is in the back. I think that was going really well with some of the responses they were getting online for people reporting online. And so, yes, we're working hard with them. Mr. Ely's doing a phenomenal job with that.
It's Mr. Ely now.
Might say this, I am.
Sorry.
Page 22, City Hall buildings, that pretty much stays status quo, the exception of the building repair that obviously dropped. We reduced it to 75,000.
The repairs, repair and maintenance on the building going almost double the budget. Does that result largely from the air conditioner units or something else?
Are you talking about the 143 or?
Line 41810.
266?
Yes, 266.
Yes, we did. We had a significant amount of repairs. We did. What did we do?
Well, we've had roof repairs,
Oh, yeah.
HVAC repairs.
HVAC repairs.
Yeah, there's
I don't know
a lot
if
of
plumbing.
HVAC repairs are just keeping those units running, capacitors and relays and condensers.
They're all
Every time you
very,
turn-
very old. We're getting a
Yeah,
I mean, the
study on the age of them and
yeah.
reason I ask is this sells about 24, almost 25,000 over budget on that one line item there. And just trying to put the capital request for the insurance, the replacement units kind of in context
Mhm.
as to what it's costing. A lot of this maintenance on these things, we're
There's
burning through.
literally some days you come in and you think all's well, and before you know it, you've had to call the heat and air person out almost regular. It's almost been a regular sight out back to see the vans and saying, can you move your vehicle so that we can get the ladder to get on the roof? And it's just time.
Put a Band-Aid on a sucking chest.
Yeah, and that's basically what happened. And as luck would have it, they all started acting up this past budget year, and that's why you're seeing an increase there.
I think this unit has not been replaced yet and it's not working. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So the timing couldn't be any better for the
If
grant.
it was hot today, we would be sweating.
Yeah.
Because the unit that handles this end of the building.
Yeah.
is
We got that, have that taken care of since we're here.
Exactly.
Hey, Dan, I've got a question going back to page real quick before we get any further. On page 21, 47,200, line 283 or object. Give me an example of out-of-town expense.
If there's a training that's out of town, hotels that need to be stayed at,
Hotels would be under meals and entertainment, wouldn't it?
no, the
Okay.
meals would be, that portion, the meals would be under meals and entertainment, but the out of town expense
What
would
would
be the hotel.
entertainment be like? Movies and?
No,
No, it's just,
no,
that's
that's just
a
a
word.
high limit, but we don't really.
that's a word, that's a word.
in our software.
It's in the software. We could probably take that word out.
Yeah.
To give you an example, if somebody went to go to get some certifications in Knoxville and had to stay for the week,
Like I was supposed to, utility training, they got canceled. So
yeah,
I was planning on going to the movie.
yeah.
Where you go, girl.
Now, a lot of the trains are they're in state, but they're in Gatlinburg or Franklin or Knoxville or Chattanooga. Of course, Franklin, you don't have to stay, but those other places you end up having to stay for the training seminars. A lot of those done through the University of Tennessee, and sometimes the training's free, but you have the hotel room in, and so and we just hadn't been doing a lot of training in that lab, so we reduced it.
Okay.
So when I do get to go to the utility training, that's where it would come from.
If you had to stay overnight, yes.
Yeah, like the one was in Knoxville.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then when you went to the movie,
When you go to the movie, you will pay for that. We'll put that on
City.
TV. City will not pay for movies.
no, come on, man. It says entertainment. Some people put it on the road bill.
We look at the receipt.
Yeah, we get copies of
We look
that.
at the receipt.
Please, I don't want to have that conversation with anybody.
Nobody's supposed
I've
to
only heard
utilize,
about that.
nobody's supposed to utilize the mini fridge.
I don't think that's what I'm
Stock
talking
mini
about.
fridge.
Look at the receipt.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we even question if the meal is extremely high.
What is extremely high, Sheila?
Ribeye filet.
If you're buying
No, it's
prime
a
rib, we're
price.
gonna have
Do we
a,
have what do we allow our employees when they go out? Do
we have a $25 per diem.
per diem per day, which does not.
Whoa, $25 per day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get it
If you
paid
say
up
the
front.
no
Now,
ribeyes.
if you give us your receipts and they're within reason,
What I
we'll
do.
refund you.
It's not paid unless the receipt is.
It's reimbursed.
But if somebody said, okay, I don't want to keep up all the receipts and I'll just do the $25 a day and take a sack
We'll
lunch,
give
they
you
can do that.
$25.
And
I'm just
They
trying
can
to
You go to
figure out if you're
Vegas.
gonna eat. I mean,
if you're in
You want
Vegas and try to eat
Yeah.
for $25, you'd be lucky to get a sandwich.
$10 alone.
Exactly.
You better stay at a hotel that's got a free breakfast.
Yeah. Come on, I mean, $25 for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
No,
You get a power bar.
Yes.
a day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
$125 per day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How do you, this, at $25?
That's what our rules are. We can't help that.
But if they
That's
bring
what-
receipts in and like they're in Knoxville and they're
$25.
going somewhere and it is reasonable but still higher than the $25, we'll reimburse them.
Yeah.
Yes, if they have a receipt.
Wow.
Because some cities are just higher than others.
Yeah.
So,
It's worked. We've had that for years.
That's fair.
Okay, thank you.
Page 23.
23 finance, mine pretty much stayed, status quo. The only thing that, might change, before first reading is the audit. We unfortunately, our auditors are not able to do our audit next year, because of staffing issues. So I've had to put an RFP out for audit services. I anticipate that going up because we've had Yuri out for, a very long time and he knew the system, so the price stayed down, but now with new auditors, I anticipate that line item increasing. I've got,
It's at 253.
yes.
yes. Yeah. So it's bumped up to 30.
It could
I'll
be
just
that
have
it
to-
doesn't go
I
up.
have the bid opening on Wednesday. I'll know more at that point.
We hate to
You
lose.
said yours is status quo, page 23?
Yes.
Looks like it's up.
The,
60,000.
one of the things that did, I'm sorry, the salaries did go up. We did a restructuring, and so some salaries were moved under my budget, this year.
Went down another area
And
and
it
then
went down
went
in another
up. Another
area.
department went up.
Oh, you,
They traded off.
So no added
Yeah, there's
person.
no add, yeah,
So the bidding on the auditing's opening
Wednesday.
went this Wednesday.
So I'll have a firmer number, by first reading.
You had a capital request for 10 grand.
Yes, that was
It
my
was
computer.
cut.
No, it was, that was last year.
Oh, you're right.
Retiree benefits, that's just salaries on, there's not much,
Where we
no
at?
change. Oh, sorry, 24.
Commission, you have to really pay special attention to the next department. I encourage you to really get your pencil sharpened on this next one.
Travis?
He's gonna cut the TV off and come in.
IT just went down, everything just went, it just stopped.
Page 65 and 66 is the employee benefit fund. That's the one I was telling you earlier. There wasn't really a change in the overall balance. It does look like we're going to be down from our actuals in 2017, 2018. We had about 2.7 million that we spent, so I'm budgeting 2.6 this year, even with, the added employees from last year. So we were able to get out of the tail end of that med-ben self-funding for about 300,000 less than what we anticipated.
So we're completely off the hook on the self-funding.
Yes, we are done.
Were you still on IT or we,
IT is next.
you guys meet Mr. Travis?
What page?
He's
I
right
mean, he
there.
sent us a very nice
25.
note today that I thought was totally took care of your presentation, but personally, unless somebody has questions,
That is what I had to say, so that covers for everyone.
unless anybody else had questions.
Just curious, what was eliminated?
Actually, in this year's budget, the capital expenditures are what were really eliminated. Basically, I basically punted everything to the next year. So I've got several items that probably could be done, but it's gonna affect us in zero. The only thing that I've done at all was, Added in the NVR for Station 1 fire hall, it needs to be replaced, which is a security camera, DVR. And then also increasing the capacity of the one at Charlie. And that's because we're adding more cameras in it.
So we're not cutting $100 out to cost us 120 in maintenance, or?
So we'll be fine.
Okay.
Next year, we'll be fine.
What page
Just
is
a
this on?
quick comment.
26.
25 is in GIS.
You mentioned capital projects. The state grant that we're gonna get is not in this budget yet, and IT upgrades is one of the classifications, so you might submit a list of what you need, because it could go to, that purchase could come out of the state grant. But that's to be decided, but we need to know what it is you took out that you need. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Travis, is there anything on GIS?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, and I do have, yeah, a note for you, because you were talking about census. I'll say this on camera. You were talking about the census, and I talked to Rob right before I came out here to get the numbers, and the response rate in Mount Juliet is substantially above the state average. It says that Mount Juliet's average is 60.7% response we've already received back in, and the state average is 52.5%. So we're already above.
60 point what?
60.7 is the Mount Juliet, 52.5 is the state average.
Awesome.
Okay, police department is next.
Yeah. They're coming.
I forgot to mention that before they come in, I put a list of changes at your desks, and police department did have a few of those changes. The line items are noted, the page number, and the amounts that they changed.
Page number.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was the couple pages that I gave you
Right,
first
what
thing.
are we going?
Oh, I'm sorry, 27.
I guess we point out the high points. There's, and I'll let Chief speak to it, but I believe they're just basically replacement police cars. They get 2 police cars, additional 2, which would be 12, I believe, out of the drug fund. 2 new personnel, police officers. And then there was one situation that we discovered, and the chief didn't, I don't know if we didn't know at the time or whatever, I didn't know, but I had subtracted $14,000 for on-call pay for the detectives. And then we later found out that it's mandated. They mandate them that they have to stay within so many miles of the city and can't be away. And I'll let Chief speak to that a little bit. We corrected
On
that.
call, correct?
Yeah, on-call pay, basically. It's basically mandated. So if it's mandated, you have to pay them on-call pay.
The first things you mentioned, extra police cars, extra positions, are they in the budget or not in the budget?
Yes, sir.
They're in.
They're in there.
So how many exactly?
Chief, do you want to speak? 2.
2 additional
Yes, 2
patrolmen.
2 patrolmen. And then total, I believe it was 12 cars.
Correct.
And 2 of those are out of drug fund, if I remember correctly, for CID cars, and the other 10 squad cars. Well, it actually would be 12 cars, I guess, 12 patrol cars and 2 CID cars for a total of 14 cars.
Right.
Because there's 2 added
A
on.
couple of
Yeah.
the CID's calls would be out of the drug fund.
But probably the most important thing to speak to is that the 14,000, we had taken it out and then we decided to put it back in. We realized there's a law that mandated it. And then to the chief and deputy chief's credit, they found some other cuts within the budget to not only offset that, but add a little bit in. So I want to commend them for doing that. That helped out tremendously. And unless anybody sees anything, I think the deputy chief had a presentation or proposal he would want to run by you guys if you're okay with that.
So, I mean, what I'm looking at here is we're increasing the police budget $400,000 basically. Is that correct? Is that right? Simple nod of the head.
Yeah.
Don't care. Somebody answer that.
Yes.
Is that, yes, okay.
So a couple months back, I spoke with the city manager about the take-home policy that we currently have for the police department, or actually citywide. He asked me to do some research for him. We did some research and found that most agencies around us have a little more, I guess, liberal take-home policy than what we currently have. A couple years back, under the previous city manager, when gas prices got up to around $4.50 a gallon, we scaled back what we had. At the time, we were at 20 miles from the city limits. We scaled that back to 20 miles from our building. And it is somewhat expensive to live within the corporate city limits of Mount Juliet, so our people have expanded a little further out. So what we've asked in this breakdown is it's a 4-step tier, and I built it as an a la carte type of situation. You can approve what you want to approve, don't approve what you don't approve any of it, approve all of it. So I broke it down on the first one under A, if you remember back, was expanding, going back to what we previously had of 20 miles from the city limits, but after speaking with the city manager, we asked to go 25 miles from the city limits, which it gets almost all of my employees in that distance with the exception of one. And that's probably just unrealistic to try to get him in because he lives on the south side of Murfreesboro. But for all the rest of them, 25 miles from the city limits gets them within a range to take home their current police vehicle. We have about 8 officers that leave their vehicles at various locations around the county or just outside the county. Say you're driving South Mount Juliet Road, just past the fire station before you get to Antioch High School, and you'll see a couple of our cars parked there. In Lebanon at the DMV, we have a couple cars parked there. We got a couple cars parked at various WEMA stations around the county. What this does is our officers can drive to those locations, park their car because that's within the distance, and then they drive to their home, wherever that may be. What we're asking to do is expand that so we don't have to stop. There's certain equipment in those cars that we can't leave in those cars at those locations, so they have to transfer equipment in and out before each shift. And what we found recently in the tornado is it delayed our response time significantly because they had to respond there, transfer all their stuff into their vehicle, and then get here. So we're asking to expand that to 25 miles. A lot of the agencies around us have a little bit further. Wilson County Sheriff's Department, they currently do not have a limit on their take-home truck, and we're not asking for that. The city of Lebanon is currently at 20 miles from the city limits, but they're currently in the process of getting a little bit more lenient with their take-home privileges as well. Section B that we're asking for or your consideration for is our on-call personnel. Currently, our on-call personnel, such as what the city manager said, is restricted to not traveling so many miles from their home. They're not allowed to go to drink or to go to bars or anything like that. So what we're asking for is while they're on call, while that specific investigator is on call, to be able to use their city-issued vehicle for personal use during that time frame. And for an instance, if one of my detectives has a small child and they're going to a cousin's birthday party and the whole family's going, they're driving in their personal vehicle, they get there, they have to leave, everybody has to leave. We're not asking for them to be able to transport their family to that birthday party, but what we're asking is if they take 2 separate vehicles, if they get to that birthday party and that detective has to leave, now their whole family doesn't have to leave. They can leave and come straight to work. They don't have to go home, get their work vehicle, and then respond to whatever scene they're going to. And in most cases, if an investigator is responding to a scene, that means I've got 2 to 3 patrol officers maintaining that scene and waiting for that detective to arrive. If I can cut down 20 minutes of that detective having to drive home, swap their vehicles over, and then drive back, that's 20 minutes quicker. I don't have 3 patrol officers sitting on the scene. So it does have some offsetting settings, and I do have the breakdown. The third one is more of a force multiplier. And the force multiplier we're talking about just for the corporate city limits of the city of Mount Juliet. And this is again something that the Wilson County Sheriff Department does, is if I have an off-duty police officer who is, say, lives in, I'll use my neighborhood, lives in Hickory Hills. And we're going to drive, he's got to run to the Kroger's on North Mount Juliet Road. He could go out, get in his patrol vehicle, drive from Hickory Hills to Kroger's and back home to pick up whatever he's got to do. And in that time frame, that gives me additional visibility on the road. It gives me the additional visibility in the Kroger parking lot, and it gives me the additional visibility on the way back. Some of the things that would be built in if we did allow that is they would have to have their radio on, they would have to be armed, and they would have to respond to anything that happens while in their path. They're not getting paid. That's the law that the city manager referenced earlier says that if we allow that, in the time that they're traveling to do that, they're not required to be paid. So we're not going to accrue any additional pay unless they have to engage in an act. So we get that additional visibility with limited cost. Plan A that I talked about earlier, with expanding the mileage from city limits, including gas, including oil, including tires, is somewhere between $2,800 and $3,100 a year. That's the total cost for that one for the year, estimated. Part B is we allow the on-call detective to drive their vehicle that particular week. You're looking at about $1,600 total for the year. And then the last one, which is more expensive because you would be talking about the possibility of 62 sworn officers taking advantage of that. But when you factor in the majority of my people don't live in the city, the majority of my people may not even take advantage of this. That comes to $21,000. Well, all these figures are based on 20 miles per gallon, and at $2 a gallon in gas. We don't pay the pump price. We have on estimate about 40 cents less than what's on the pump price. And you see what gas prices are today. Doesn't mean that they're not going to go back up, but currently we're not paying that. So the numbers are much higher in the estimate than what they would actually be. So you're looking at $21,000 for the Plan C, $1,500 for Plan B, and about $3,000 for Plan A. All in all, if you approved all of them, you're talking about $25,000 on the high end of everybody taking advantage of it at $2 a gallon. And we ask for your consideration on any of them.
I guess my question is on this, how does this compare with other communities around us? This first question, what does this do for us also in terms of retention, recruiting, and then of course response time? And then I'd like to know specifically if there were any examples when the tornadoes hit of how this could have got people on the scene quicker.
To go in order, start with the first one again.
How's it compare?
Compared, I've looked at every city that touches us, and I don't have that chart with me, but since, for instance, the county, everything that I'm asking for today is what the county already allows. The city of Lebanon allows Part A. They do not allow Part B and C at this time, but these are two that they are currently considering. The city of Gallatin, the city of Hendersonville have very similar policies to what I'm asking for. The city of Laverne has, theirs factors in, I believe it's 20 miles from their city limits or 30 minutes. But I don't have the actual breakdown right here with me.
But you're saying this is not something that's unheard of.
No, and actually, when I first started this, we only started with Plan A in mind. That was our goal with Plan A,
Which was the expansion.
which was the expansion. And then when we got to looking in and doing the research, we found that these are other things that some agencies do. And instead of coming back and doing it multiple different times, we built it this way to give you all the options at one time and let you choose what you want to do. And then as far as the response time, yes, there was some in the tornado that were, like I said, when you respond to these locations, you can't leave your rifle in your car. You can't. There's certain equipment that you can't leave in your patrol car, so you have to transfer all your equipment in and out, back and forth between these cars. It's not going to be a whole lot of time, but if this fire station isn't in a direct route to the city, you may have to drive 5 miles the out of the way direction to get to this fire department versus just being able to respond straight from your home. So it would have helped. Yes, sir.
On that A, so they have things in their car that they have to take out before they leave their vehicle, right?
Yes, sir.
What if they're driving, you're still gonna allow these officers, if they don't wanna take their car home, to at least go to that fire department? Let's use that one for example. I've had one of them tell me that they didn't want to drive a police car to their apartment or wherever.
Sure.
So in that situation, we're still gonna allow that.
Yes, sir. And like I said, I don't know that everybody's gonna take advantage of this. This
understand.
is just making it available for those that choose to.
I understand. In that situation, what happens to that specific equipment that you're referring to? Is it taken out they
No.
take it home,
They
take it inside their home? Is that
No.
what they do? The gun or whatever? They don't leave it at City Hall?
No.
I mean that, the PD.
No.
So, okay, understand. But if they take their car home, they'll leave it in their car, I'm sorry. They'll leave it in their vehicle, right? Wherever they take their vehicle, if it's not.
Yeah, for the
They take
most
it
part,
home?
yes.
Okay.
Because there's more security in your driveway at your home
Or apartment complex.
than an unattended parking lot.
Michael, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was gonna ask the recruiting and retention.
As far as recruiting and retention, I can't give, it's an intangible type of situation. I do know that you have people leave for various reasons. But every little thing that you can do, and this would be something that does add a few more dollars into their pocket. If they're not having to pay for gas for their personal vehicle to drive to and from the fire station, or if the detectives are allowed to drive this for whatever reason while they're on call, it does add a little more money into their pocket and a little less money that they have to pay. So it does have that ability.
On the on-call personnel, yeah, they're restricted to no drinking, no bars. They can't do meth. They can't do cocaine or anything like that while they're, obviously, but Public Works is already under that, are they not?
Sir,
Public Works already has that.
I know that the Public Works has their sewer people on call, but I don't know what their restrictions are for
Yeah.
Public Works.
It's just the sewer team. The sewer-
Correct, but
use one
what I'm
person
saying
for
is they're
each.
subject to on-call, so they can't do any of the things we talked about. How are they getting paid?
It's the same as what he's.
So all we're doing is just taking the police officers, the detectives in this case, that may be called in and doing the exact same thing that we're doing to others who may be called in, correct?
Yes.
No change.
No, well, again, I don't know what the restrictions for Public Works are while they're on call. I can only speak to what our restrictions.
No, I think the restrictions are gonna be the same. I'm not worried too much about that other than the policies, what I was looking at. There's no reason not to do that if we're already doing it. We just need to expand it to others that may be under the same circumstances. I know for a fact that, West Wilson Utility District,
Mhm.
they have to pay their on-call people additional money. So that's pretty much a no-brainer. The expansion for the 25 miles, and you are correct, Wilson County does not have any limit. They've got one guy who drives his car to Cookville and back. So I don't see that being a major issue either. The off-duty thing, the force multiplier that you talked about, where are you getting that number, $21,000 per year?
$21,000 is factored at 62 officers on an estimate of, it is strictly to travel inside the city limits,
How many officers do we have that live inside city limits?
not 62. I'm just trying to give you the high number.
Okay, so we take,
These, like I said, these are very high numbers.
Okay.
at 21,000. It's 62 officers, factoring in an additional 50 miles of travel per week for 52 weeks is 161,000 miles per year. Factor in at 20 miles per gallon.
Right.
That's 8,000, a little over 8,000 gallons. At $2 a gallon, that's $16,000.
Do we know
Yeah,
currently, though, Michael, do we know how many officers do live in Sun City?
I do not.
Do we have any ideas, like 20 or 10? Or-
I can give you a guess of probably half, but that would be
Half,
a guess. Yeah. 18 to 20.
so 18 to 20,
Third.
so third. So $21,000 is for all 62, right?
It's like 7,000.
I got a question on option A.
Yes, sir.
It feels like we talk about this every year and we change it every year. I'm sure that's not true, but why did we change it the last time? Do you?
This hasn't been changed since the previous city manager. And he changed it based on, at that point in time, the fuel costs went very high under his leadership. So he scaled that back. And prior to him, I did not know that it had been ever discussed in my employment.
What did the guys do when the change was made? I mean, all these questions that have come up about, you know, the switch out that you gotta do at the temporary parking area and all this stuff. What did people do?
We do as we're told.
I mean, did we have issues? Did we have cars getting broken into at the Wema Fire Station or?
No, sir, we're not, well, I don't know we've had any vehicles broke into, no.
I mean, what was, it feels like we always are talking about it, always changing it to me. I don't know why, but it just feels like we're always on this topic.
Like you said, it hadn't been changed for a while now.
Now, this was originally brought up about a year ago, and because there was some instability in the fuel cost then, we tabled it. And then the city manager allowed me to bring it forward a couple months ago,
Yeah.
and then it just hasn't got an opportunity to get to a workshop.
And then you chose the 25 miles because that caught every single person that's currently employed but the one.
All but one, yes.
And that was the rationale for choosing 25?
Yes, sir.
Are there any restrictions or is there anything in place that when you hire somebody, they need to be living close to the city to begin with?
No, sir.
Don't we think that would be a good model though to, okay, if you've got employees then.
Well, I mean, it kind of depends. I mean, we do a pretty good job of trying to recruit. And when you're trying to recruit certified officers, what you tend to get is a lot of people with baggage. So when you're adding additional restrictions, that you're cutting your candidate pool a little more than what we're like. And quite honestly, if they get there on time, if I'm getting a quality person, I'm okay with that.
I was just going to add that we're looking more at the quality of the character of the person than we are where they're living at the time. Because we all are, and I said, talking about all, I'm talking about law enforcement, other agencies, we're all competing for these same individuals as well.
And that goes back to the recruiting and retention part as well. As the chief said, we're all fishing in the same barrel. And we're just trying to be competitive with everybody else.
Do we have a problem recruiting and retaining?
Yeah,
What's
but
our
I think
term?
that's an issue that you're seeing across the board in law enforcement these days. It's kind of, you turn on TV and there's not a whole lot of positive reasons to be in law enforcement today. So recruiting is an issue. It's much harder than it used to be. And retention is, I don't know necessarily, it's kind of the scapegoat kind of go-to, that with the newer generation of officers that are coming in, they're not staying in any particular job very long. So we're also dealing with that.
Are you millennial bashing?
I am not.
Okay, just checking.
Michael, could you explain C one more time? I understand A and B, I just, for some reason, I'm not grasping C as well.
So C is, I'll use the same example again. If an officer lives in Woodridge, and he is off duty, but it's his day off, it's after his shift or whatever, and he's got to run to the Kroger's on North Mount Juliet Road. He can get in his car, drive from Woodridge to that Kroger's. That gives me the additional visibility of that police car through Woodridge to the Kroger parking lot, in the Kroger parking lot while he's there, and then back. Now, that's gonna, whoever he drives past will hopefully slow down. Whatever bad guys coming through town may see that additional patrol car in that time frame, and it creates the illusion that there's more of us than what there really is.
And these people are not on call.
No, sir.
That's why, okay, now I understand the difference. Okay.
Do you have any restrictions or policies as to about having family in there, family members in the vehicle?
Well, again, that's currently not something we have. And I did leave out the last one, which is Part D, that does cover that. And Part D says grant the city manager discretion to allow special approval to employees that are issued city vehicles to transport non-city employees in city-issued vehicles for events such as funerals, schools, and medical situations. And the example to that would be, I'll use Alan Carver just because you know Alan Carver. Alan Carver has a kid that goes to West Wilson Middle School or Mount Juliet Middle School. If he gets a phone call from the principal that says, hey, you need to come pick your kid up, he's sick at school. Alan's wife works in Nashville. She's not an option. He has to drive past the school, go home, drop his car off, pick up his personal car, drive back to the school to pick up his kid to take him home if he's sick. What we're asking in Part D is just to allow the city manager the option to allow that to happen. If, hey, a kid's sick, can I pick him up at school? Yes, pick your kid up, take him home. That was Part D in this. But currently, there is no option for that. And quite honestly, the city manager don't have that discretion.
So the policy is you cannot take a family member in the vehicle.
Yes.
I guess, that puts me in a little bit of concern on C then. If they are allowed to take their child to Kroger, the example you used, and then there's an incident.
No, that wasn't in C.
And he just said
wouldn't be allowed on
individually.
Yeah, it's just the individual. In A, B, and C, there's no city, there's no transport of no non-employee.
Okay, so him using the vehicle under C means
Just him.
only
Right.
the officer. He cannot take his wife to Kroger with him.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I will tell
Only
you,
the back
there's
seat.
been numerous times, Mayor, when I would do exactly what I would drive past WA Wright Elementary School, have to go to my house, get out of the patrol car, turn around, and by that time, you might as well change clothes, say, go back over, pick your kids up. It was kind of ridiculous. And I mean, the sheriff actually wound up, he granted us some leeway to do that.
Because
it
he's
wasn't-
not talking about just picking, he's talking about if there was an emergency, not just because they're getting out of school.
And if that were the case, yeah. I mean, in our case, if it were something, for instance, I'll give you an example. When I had to pick the kids up, and this happened 2 or 3 different times, I had permission from Supervisor Duck, but, I had a wreck late, and rather than get off at 6 o'clock, I'd get off at 6:30 or 7:15. Well, rather than my kids be late, then I would go to the house, the sheriff would give me permission to pick the kids up, put them in the car real quick and run them to the school. With blue lights and sirens going, no, I'm just joking, but we would,
There is an example of that.
they would
Bonnie
allow
Harris
us to do that.
currently doesn't take her car home just for that reason.
I'm sorry.
Bonnie Harris doesn't take her kids home or her car home for that reason, because she has to drive through the school zone. Her kid goes to WA Wright school zone. She has to drive through that school zone. I'm sorry, not WA Wright West.
Okay,
She has to drive through the West Elementary School zone to get to work, but she can't drop her child off at that school, so she doesn't take home her vehicle because of that reason.
okay, once again, we're talking about an officer or detective in this case who's driving a plain clothes or a plain vehicle unmarked. I mean, and she's on her way to work, but she has to bring the child to school in her personal vehicle, turn around and come here to pick the vehicle up. Now, that's a off-duty situation there where, she's on call. She has to come here to pick her vehicle up, correct?
Yes, sir.
Every day. So, I mean, there needs to be an opportunity for the city manager to be able to make exceptions when he should be able to have that authority and that latitude to make those
If
decisions.
it's an emergency, but not an everyday thing taking your kids, that's not what you're saying.
That's not what's in the ordinance, no.
That's not what he's talking about. I'm talking about that one situation for that young lady who has to take her personal car home every day because of this. I mean, she's in an unmarked car. It's not like she's in a marked unit. Yeah, and I will tell you that that's something that the Willis County Sheriff's Department does allow them to do.
Yeah, and this,
Unmarked units.
yeah, I apologize for it being presented this way, but we would have done it 2 months ago. Of course, everybody knows since the tornado and the COVID. I'm in full support of it because I see the pluses in it, but we need to get before you in the workshop format so that you can hear all the pros and cons rather than having a whole separate. But we didn't know, to be honest with you, with all this been going on, when that might happen. We felt like this might be the good time because I didn't want to bring you an ordinance forward to amend something without you hearing this presentation. And the officers take great pride in their automobiles. A lot of times they'll wash them at home and things of that nature as well. So there's a lot of benefits to this. So
That number 3 is something they started probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it's expanded and gone out, and more people and more are doing that now.
so it is
Where they're allowing people to drive to the grocery store, that kind of thing.
And officers are smart about it. I mean, they're the one thing good about when they are out in their car, especially if you're just running the store, you would be amazed at the times you might get a DUI, or you might get with the new license plate reader cams, you might get notification of that. It goes out on the radio, and you happen to be one of the officers who's right there that can help with that situation. So the pros definitely far outweigh the negatives. So we just want to get your blessing to come forward with that at maybe our May 11th meeting, along with some of the other things, since we'll have an agenda for then.
We able to audit this with maybe GPS?
Yes, sir, all our vehicles have GPS.
So we have a way to hold people accountable with this as well.
Yes.
And this would also give officers the ability to drive to church using these and just have the patrol car out front.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's a
If
benefit.
they, under this, if they attend church in the city of Mount Juliet.
Correct.
All right, guys, we got a long night ahead of us. What else?
That's all I got.
I thought we had something about dispatch.
Anything from Chief? Anything? Were you gonna add something to the?
Added to the things that we took out were one of the positions of dispatch and the building, of course, that was removed. And that's, we took that out. But in the future, whether it be during this time or not, we're gonna have to seriously look at expanding our building, and more than just expanding our building for a room, making our dispatch and our communication center secure and hardened. For example, if the same tornado would have been on the side to where the north end, especially Charlie Daniels Park and our police headquarters were impacted, our communication system, not just thinking about equipment, but our personnel will be seriously injured or killed, because that facility, communications facility, is not hardened facility.
It's a metal building, right?
It's a metal building,
Yeah.
and with just regular walls. And so did want to bring, with that said, just pass around, because we looked at it, and the numbers that we had from an individual were really the wrong numbers. What he looked at, and I'm gonna pass this around, what he looked at, he was looking at the building and putting, if you would, 2 wings, and that's what he priced, and that's where that 2-point-something million came in, and so it's literally half of that. And so I'll just pass these around.
But Chief, those 2 wings, was one of them not?
No, they're not 2 wings. We
I
never.
understand, but on your sheet though, does it not say,
Okay.
2 with 1 for evidence and 1 for
Correct.
garden area?
Right.
So wasn't that his first bid for both of those?
No. He when he bidded it, he was talking about 2 wings on the front side.
Plus the 1 in the back for the evidence?
Correct.
Are all these the same?
Yeah, I'm just passing them out.
So that everybody's got one.
You have to share. I mean, we can't keep.
I have no idea what I'm doing here, guys. What pieces are we?
It's two
I'm getting-
different, it's
I'm
two
getting
different sheets.
multiples. Huh?
Yeah, it's two different sheets.
I don't know.
It's this one and the one with the building. Each. I think that should.
This was requested in the budget.
Here's something else from the.
Yeah, it was requested originally, but their first number was 2.6. And it come to find out later that the contractor, which had given the initial quote, had doubled it. He was thinking there was 2 wings, when in reality there was 1. So if the city was to approve this or add it back into the budget at first reading, it would be 1.3.
Right, and now my understanding was, what we were talking about was for the Hardin dispatch.
Yeah, on the sheet you see, you have, it's showing like a A and a B, and you have to do this, the evidence room and the garage and things like that, that would be $258,500. And the total to do all of them is at 1.5886, the number you see at first. So that's to do everything. And then to go down
Does that
to,
include any new equipment, or is that just the?
this is just a hardened facility. And if you go down just the cost of hardening that dispatch room currently, that's $63,823. Would be just to do that, and we were just talking about putting walls, block walls.
63,000?
Correct.
You mean where it is right now? In other words,
Sure.
the concrete floor on top and the walls, where it is right now?
Right now.
Would be 63,000.
Correct. 63,800, almost 64,000.
So that's one option.
Yeah, there is another option.
And this is an option. Another option is to put it in the new fire station.
That's exactly what I said.
And Jamie has, if I'm not mistaken, has made the comment that he liked that idea as well. Is that correct, Kenny?
Yes, sir. He has mentioned that before.
And then the fourth option is to move PD back to this building here, because it is hard. We can move City Hall over there.
That's not.
That's an option. That's 4 options.
It was actually what I suggested originally, but
Well,
we don't want to go there.
as we evolve, no, you know what? I'm being serious. As we evolve, we need to think about where PD is going to be effective. We have not seen what Midtown for this city is going to be like in 2 years from now. And if PD was here, I think we would have a lot more exposure here. It would take less time to go north, east, south, or west. Hill Street will be opened up to clinics. We've got the Christmas place over here. We've got these apartments that's coming on. This is going to be a busy area. It's just a thought. It's just, that's 4 options. I mean, I'm not sure.
It is an option,
You know?
a viable option, I don't believe. I mean, now, with everything that we have to have with our secured parking and everything that we have, I don't know if we can make that happen on this footprint right here.
Well, you got that lot across the street, deal. Put a fence around it.
What's the square footage of this building?
I'll say it's 15,000 square feet, I believe.
15? What's the square footage of the headquarters center?
About the same.
That's
About the
it.
same.
I think that the one, our version is almost 850. I think it's significantly bigger than our building.
And you got city court there as well.
How big's that courtroom compared to this?
Little bit larger, a bit larger, 60 some odd.
But that's a secured courtroom, unlike this one with offices hanging off of it. And
One of the things that, of getting away was the fact that we wasn't coming in directly from offices out into this room like we used to, and just different other things.
All options.
For as far as the two officers that are in the budget, man, we certainly appreciate that. You know, the success that we've had with our K-9 program and our LPR system that you guys approved. You've seen the tremendous work that both of those programs have brought forth, and so though the manpower to continue with that, and when we talk about building on an additional and adding to our evidence room, that's going to be a necessity as well, because we are getting more and more evidence being brought in and less space to accommodate it at this time.
Didn't the DA's office extend the time that you got to hold on to it too?
Yeah, it's certain things, yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say this, that K-9 officer, some people want to do something, some people are born to do something. That's probably by far the best K-9 officer and dog that we've ever had in the history of our police station.
Speaking of K-9 officer, on page 6, it was a pay adjustment recommended.
Correct.
Can you?
I don't know what page.
Can you speak to that?
Page 6 of this, or page 6 of something?
Of the budget.
6.
I don't have the total, but well, I can speak to it. I just didn't have it in front. We're just looking at making that the K-9 officer a corporal and as the same pay level as a detective, a corporal detective. We got corporal detectives, but to put him in the same pay class as those detectives.
He's basically, seems to me, just monitoring what I see as far as releases that are put out, that he seems to be on call constantly.
Yes, if we if we need him and he's available, and there have been other times that he's not available, then we certainly try to use another, whether it be county, Lebanon, or Metro, another agency.
What's the plan going forward of getting another K-9?
We've talked about it a little bit. At one time, we had another entity within the city that was willing to donate the cost of another K-9. Right now, with everything that's happening right now, that's not a viable thing for them right now. We just recently talked to them about that, and right now they're not in a position to do that this time. That was talked about.
Anything else, guys? We got a lot of people waiting to come in and present. Anything else?
That's it.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks,
The
Chief.
stuff that you've been talking about, it'd be real helpful if it was in writing for us, all those options and everything. I mean, I don't have anything on that other than I've been trying to keep up with you and write it down.
Right now. Okay. We can get those notes to you before.
Mayor, are you talking about the options as far as the policy or the?
There was just about 4 options thrown on the table about a building. And I don't even know the first thing about it. I got all kinds of papers coming at me, the sketches and stuff, and something in writing would help a lot.
Is it this?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've already told Mark he's after the and Jennifer's
Is that the 4 options? Okay, if we got it in advance, that would help a lot, so we could have read it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee, it's Mark. Hey, Rocky, can you bring Mark in?
Mark says.
I just totally Park.
Mark.
Mark and Park sounds a lot alike.
I'm reading this.
Board of Commissioners, this one should be, when I say easy, the only thing that was in there of note, he did have some step increases and all and asked for some additional personnel. It just really wasn't the year for that. I think we'll be fine. There was a car in there. It was basically a transfer over from this year. We were able to get a car, as you can imagine, because of the government shutdown for the most, not government shutdown, but because of COVID-19. We were having a hard time getting a car. So to be safe, we rolled it. We were able to get a car. We actually were able to get it about $7,000 cheaper than what we would have got it for next year. So we got that now, so that can come out of that budget as well. So other than that, Mark is actually status quo and below.
H.
39. And 40.
And to Mark's credit, he was understandable of why this would be the year to add personnel or make any types of increases.
39 is.
39,
Says
development services, that's building code.
Anything you need to tell us?
Actually,
Unless you have a question.
Anybody should be noted, there are 5 pies.
Mhm.
Not one has been taken until I got the first one just a minute ago. They're hidden around the corner where nobody saw them.
Yeah.
Anybody have a question for Mark?
Want the pie?
I'm just,
Thank you, Mark. That's even better. Who's next?
Mark's a man of
Bring
few
Jennifer
words.
in, Mark. Thank you. Yeah, Mark and I actually, oddly enough, I didn't know it until about 3 or 4 years into our time together working here that we actually went to the same high school
Oh,
and
wow.
graduated, I believe, the same year or so. He's
Mark and
just-
I actually live down the road from each other. I pass his house going out of my neighborhood every day.
Oh, wow.
Mark's done a really good job in that department.
I didn't send them up.
City planner is next, and that's page 41.
Sharon.
And Board of Commissioners, this is similar to before with Mark's, is there was some personnel requests and some step increases, and spoke to Ms. Hamlin, and to her credit, she actually stepped up and said, no need to even go there. She totally understood what was going on in our economy and was most receptive of and understanding of the fact we had to take some things out, but other than that, her budget is also pretty much status quo.
Got anything to tell us?
No.
Wow.
It's good to see y'all.
All right, this is
So does
going a lot
anybody-
faster than I thought.
Has anybody got any questions? I mean,
yeah, operating cost, our operating supplies look to be up, so just number of submittals and stuff, hard to budget for.
Exactly.
Noticed it got bumped a little bit. That's all that really jumped out to me.
yeah, Jennifer and her team's done a phenomenal job as well. It's, especially, a lot of times you don't see all the moving pieces. You folks know this better than anybody. A lot of things have slowed down a little bit, but there's a lot of things that just been trucking right along. And with their efforts, hopefully we can see that continue. Thank you.
Good thing Disney's closed, so she's sticking around.
They're taking a hit. They're taking a hit just on her attendance alone.
Florida's calling.
Yes,
Y'all have a good night.
you too. Thank you.
Public Works is next. That starts on page 42.
And Andy's a little more complex, so, but,
He has quite a few of the special funds, so we'll be flipping to the back.
yeah, I do, before he gets in here, before he gets in, I do want to say thank you all again, that stepping up and getting those trucks, wrapper trucks, that was huge. Unless Andy wants to send them back.
No. Our guys are having too much fun using them, I'll say.
Yes. Good job, Andy.
Yeah.
You got 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
That's it.
All right, I'll be quick. Of course, this year, understanding where we're at in the economy, really try to take a lot of different areas here. My first time going through the budget as a whole. Obviously, I've done a lot on this in the past, but took and was able to really take a long, hard look at some of our expenditures, really trying to cut as much as I could. Highways and streets, seeing what we could do as far as deducting some expenses there year over year. Trying to get mostly contractual services, trying not to have much in the way of equipment needs this year. We did have skid steer in there. We do have a new F-150 replacing a Ford Ranger that's getting pretty long in the tooth. We also have one vacancy, which is actually Public Works wide. We have 4 vacancies. We actually were getting to the place prior to the tornado of filling 3 of them. And tornado hit, and with the pandemic, we had that plus another, obviously that we're holding. So while these are all in here, the budgets that you see, Public Works, we're holding that. We're gonna keep in touch with Kenny, Dana, as far as seeing where we're at in our funding to make sure. So those positions will not get filled until we know we're in a better financial place. And Highways and Streets has one of those in there. One of our streets laborers is position vacant. State street aid, we did have about $250,000 almost.
That's page 52.
Yeah, page 52.
Mr. Barr, I want to add that we will request that the commission roll those positions in the next year, but what Andy's doing to his credit, he's basically just trying to hold off as long as he can. And kudos to Andy, because during the COVID and the tornado, his team has just been going full speed. And I appreciate you, Andy, because I know it'd be a whole lot easier for us to have those people on right now, but he feels like, saving, enables to save a few dollars.
It would be.
A question about, are any of these positions that you're holding off on, are they going to have any direct impact on any of our transportation projects?
No, not right now. So the one main position I would say it's our professional level staff that we have is the plans reviewer. That's Neil's vacated position that he had prior to being assigned deputy director. That position, however, primarily is going to be overview of the development projects as they're going. We anticipate a little bit of a slowdown. We were actually ready to start interviews 1st of March. The week of the tornado, we were ready to set up some interviews. And so obviously that threw us behind. Knowing where we're going to be development wise, we felt it was wise to pause on that. Neil and I decided after Jessica left that we wanted to wait anyway and see what the needs were. Did we need a different type of position for that? But we tried to wait on that as much as we could, and we were ready to fill it, but obviously not now. So, and I guess as far as that goes, I was on the consultant side back in the last recession, faced with many layoffs. And so got to say I'm quite a bit scarred from that. And so when I see vacant positions and something like this, it is not something that I even want to touch right now. So
your answer is no, this will not impact any of the transportation projects.
No. Okay, that's correct. Moving on, I think page 52, we did cut back a little bit on our paving. Primarily some drainage costs saved as well. We had a few special projects last year. By and large, those have been completed.
What page you said was it?
52.
I was going to add too, if Andy gets to the position where he really is hurting for those positions, a lot of this is, I hate to say self-inflicted, but Andy knows he's got the green light if he needs to hire those positions because they're budgeted.
Yes.
Unless for some reason or other it would be taken out.
Right.
So
our paving list, basically we had it set from the prior year. We're probably going to start doing some different things, I'll say, in paving, trying to get some contractual help on that, some more sophisticated paving. What we've done in the past has traditionally been visually inspecting everything, driving every road, and then trying to compile that list spatially to try to get them all in one neighborhood or another. So taking a little bit more of an advanced approach with this. I think it's time to do that. I expect that's probably in the neighborhood of about $50,000 or so, but it's something we'll just do once every 2 years. And when we do that, that'll give us our paving list for 2 years. So obviously with some staff input. Items I would like the commission to know, we are pausing on our traffic calming for right now. We budget those. They're generally a speed hump is going to be about $5,000–6,000. And so understanding those expenses, we have paused a lot of that right now. We do have some paving left to do this year. Trying to wait maybe till closer to May, early June to finish that out to know where we're at financially as well.
Just pausing that mean we're going to pay more later to go back and put them in, or they just won't get them?
No, we'll go back later and put them in. But
It'll fall within the same contract?
It will, yes.
So
Well,
we
we
can't
did.
raise the price on it.
We are due, so we do our paving bids once every 2 years. And as part of that, we do have some pricing in there as far as asphalt costs. We're due to rebid that this year, this summer, and I anticipate we're going to get some pretty good paving costs this year.
That's for gas and oil and
Yes.
hello. They're giving it away basically.
Yeah, I think our asphalt index, which is what we go by to judge our paving costs, I think that's going to be down quite a bit, which is going to give us some good prices. I anticipate paving costs to be lower this coming year to year and a half. Unless there's any other questions on State Street Aid, we'll move along to page 60. Begins Capital Projects Fund. I would like to know two projects in particular here do not have any grant funding, which take up the vast majority of our capital projects. The transfer from the general fund. Those are Golden Bear Gateway widening and Old Lebanon Dirt Road realignment.
That's page
Safety project.
62 at the top.
62?
Yes, page
Yes.
62 at the top.
And those two projects comprise $28 million and then some.
I'm sorry?
Those two projects alone comprise $28 million.
The widening on Golden Bear?
Mm-hmm.
And what else?
Old Lebanon Dirt Road. Those are function numbers 43171 and 43173.
When you say holding off or delaying, what does that mean necessarily?
We are, because they are 100% locally funded with no grant funds, those projects in particular, we have the ability to pause those.
How much are we spending currently on those?
Currently, we're probably spending, I'd say, $20,000 a month on those, on design.
On design.
Road,
It's saving $20,000 a month on design, pushing these projects back. In some places, been waiting on forever. And it just sounds to me like a drop in the bucket.
well,
Can I say something?
Sure.
And please.
I'm sorry.
Okay. About 6 years ago, I said we were going to widen Golden Bear Gateway and extend it on out to I-40. Longer than that, actually. I mean, I've got emails that I've looked at maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I said we needed to get started on the Lebanon Road piece and the widening of Golden Bear down to Lebanon Road. 6.5 years later, it's still not done, and we're going from a 5-lane or 4-lane, whatever you want to call it, down to a 2-lane. We still haven't got anything done on Lebanon Road, and we have to accredit TDOT for their not getting anything done, because that seems to be the way they accomplish nothing, is by not getting anything done. Now we're saying we're going to stop widening a road that should have been widened 5 years ago, when we've actually appropriated the money for that. Did we not?
We did.
Okay, so I apologize, but that when we appropriated the money and said, let's get this done, that was the commission saying that. Everybody. Okay, now I don't know where this comes that we're going to pause anything, but I'm sorry, but I am sick and damn tired of not getting anything accomplished in these road projects in my district. When we've got the money to do it, the only thing we don't have is the will of whatever bureaucracy we seem to be answering to.
Commissioner, that was just a recommendation. It's not final to the Board of Commissioners.
I'm tired of not getting anything done. We appropriate money on top of money on top of money to get these road projects done, and we have not gotten any done. We're not finishing nothing. When are we going to finish something? We can't even get a Magic Road widened over the interstate. We were told that the construction of that was going to be what, 2 years ago? Year and a half ago, something of that nature? We can't even get that done.
Yeah.
We got to get something done.
Well,
Not paused, done.
I share your frustration, but if you want to look at a project that's been delayed and delayed and delayed, look at Old Lebanon Dirt Road. It was appropriated back when Andrew Jackson was president.
And it
Isn't done
doesn't
yet.
make it any
And I can
better.
prove that, by the way. It's in the
historical record.
I don't doubt it.
I just,
And I'm not blaming Andy. I apologize. You're having to be the person I'm looking at. But you know where we're going with this.
Certainly.
Yeah, and we agree with that. Andy and his crew, they're working extremely hard, and we all agree with your frustration. Trust
Well, we
me.
went to TDOT. We sat up there and had a meeting with them at TDOT, and all we got was a bunch of double talk. It amounted to nothing.
And Ray, when you first started, I thought you were talking about design. That's why I thought, because I knew that's what I thought you were doing it, but.
Well, I mean, it's taken us 4 years to design something. It'll take 6 months to build, I believe.
Yeah, Mr. Ruddle will tell you that there's just so many stipulations, a lot of the bureaucracy and the hoops and things he's got to jump through.
Oh, yeah, the Indiana brown bat.
Yeah, when we go to the MPO and the GNRC meetings and all, this is the same thing. Some of the same frustrations we're hearing from a lot of the other communities as well.
I'm specifically speaking to projects that we're not involving TDOT with necessarily. These are our projects, and we're voluntarily putting them on hold. And I'm hearing $20,000 a month savings to do that. Or is that $20,000 per project?
Per project.
Either way, to me, just doesn't seem like worth the effort of putting these projects on hold to push this out another 2, 3, 4 months, because it's just, I mean, we're nickeling this thing to death. And to me, if we control it from beginning to end, I don't see any reason to put a pause on that. And I don't know who proposed that, but it's not something I have any support for.
Me either.
Tell us those projects that we're putting on hold.
So the ones that we've looked at, obviously, we want to prioritize right now with funding the projects that we know that we have the grant money attached to. So taking that down, which projects do we not have grant money associated with? Those would be the roundabout South Green Hill Road at Willoughby Station Boulevard, the traffic signal at Providence Parkway, and that would be at Kroger, Publix access points, Golden Bear Gateway widening, Old Lebanon Dirt Road improvements, and to a smaller degree, we're looking at some improvements at Providence Way slip ramp. That's from the interstate. And additionally, we don't have any activity right now on the Curve Road signal, Mount Juliet Road. I think we did have some money dedicated to that. I think part of that's just waiting on some more additional development funding source for
We
that.
got some money for that.
Right.
That was given from the development.
So with that, it's just more or less prioritizing our expenses until we kind of know where we're at. And I think that we would know, and Kenny and I talked a little bit about it as far as, I went through a long list of our projects just to see what does it look like right now, and where are we going to stand 3 months from now? There's pretty big unknowns as far as what's our revenue been for the month of April. How's it going to be moving forward in this upcoming fiscal year? I mean, we hope it's all going to be fine, but we don't know for sure. So it was just we're just trying to look at that and see how we could be prudent in our expenses.
Why was there no money allocated for the number one priority project, the Central Pike interchange?
That one has been taken on by TDOT. We did dedicate $1 million this past fiscal year, and TDOT has put the lump sums of the remainder of engineering, right-of-way, construction in their work plan. So
That
therefore,
sounds like good news, but it also sounds like we're gonna go into the TDOT bureaucratic
Yeah, we just got pulled into the black hole.
cyclone, yeah.
it is an Improve Act project. There is a timeline associated with that, but more importantly with that, there's a timeline associated with it, federal highway approval for actually having the interchange. And so that's actually driving the project.
So is this good
More than-
news or?
Yeah, that's good news because it helps push beyond what anybody in the city of Mount Juliet can do. It's an internal push for TDOT to make sure that they complete that because they submitted that document. They got it approved. And so it's on them to make sure that they do that. I think it was critical. We did get it started a year earlier with us funding that $1 million to the project. One other item I will note on the projects is the bridge widening that Commissioner Justice was referencing. We received $2 million additional grant funding from the MPO this past year. And so that.
Past year?
Yes, we received, that went active, I think, maybe in November or December. And so that money is there. We would have had to write probably a $2.5 to $3 million check to TDOT this summer to get that construction started. As it is, I think we're looking at about maybe a $500,000 or so to write that
When does
check to
it
get
get?
that started.
And what did we have set aside for that?
We did have, I still kept $2 million in the budget just because I don't know what the final estimate's going to be. I haven't received an
So
updated
that's
estimate.
$1.5 million approximately that
Yeah,
is
I think it's
not going to be used.
correct. Yes, I believe that's correct. We don't know though, and we don't know how things, bids lately have been really wild in their range. We don't know what's going to be high, what's going to be low. Right now, I think that's going to help things. The best time to bid is really right now.
When is the bid date?
I believe we're looking for a July or an August bidding. We have the final tracks, right-of-way tracks, should be acquired hopefully in May.
And that's taken some time. It takes
It's
a lot longer than.
Just to let y'all know, we put our offer out to this one remaining track last March or April, and we're now having to most likely condemn.
Most likely what?
Condemn.
Yeah. Very disappointing in some of that process. But to answer the question about the proposals, we were just trying to be good stewards to come in, not knowing what the future holds with the economy, but we're definitely,
yeah,
it's the will of the body, what we put in or take out. If
Correct.
leave everything as is.
Money in.
Well, I think those projects should be prioritized. Which one's more important to us?
Yeah.
If we're gonna get started on one of those that's been, I'm just hearing if they are, what is more important? Prioritize.
Again, if we've already appropriated the money,
We've already prioritized these projects as the ones we want to take on now.
correct.
And we've got a list. We passed that resolution.
Okay, so,
It's already there, is what I'm saying.
but,
The number one project was the interchange.
That's correct.
right, so you're not gonna start all the others, you're gonna start that one then.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
we can't
correct.
start any sooner than
Right,
when we get the bids.
right, exactly.
So I have a question further what Ray was talking about, specifically Golden Bear and Old Lebanon Dirt Road. So if Golden Bear widening,
Okay,
And
Lebanon
Old
Road,
Lebanon?
not Old Lebanon Dirt Road.
do what?
Golden Bear and Lebanon Road, not Old Lebanon Dirt Road.
Those two projects.
Oh, I thought you were
Old
saying
Lebanon.
at the intersection.
No.
I'm following.
Those two projects. So
The GPS.
if the money was there, is it there? Or is it being transferred out to go with the matching funds where on projects where the grants are coming in? Is that why the construction's not being done?
I think Dana could probably speak a little bit more to the financing. I'd say a good portion of the money's there.
Well, the money's budgeted. It looks like those two projects had a significant increase, but they are in the budget, and they're covered.
We, I would say the significant expenses on those probably would not happen for about 3 years or more or so. We're probably, if we pursue on our current track, we would be acquiring right of way on each project beginning this fiscal year.
So more reason to keep moving ahead if it's 3 years out before real money's being spent.
Mhm.
Because right now, it just sounds like symbolism over substance when you call that a savings, when you're really pushing the whole project off long-term.
So on these two projects over 6 years, what has been done?
So each project, I believe, I have to go back and look. Each project made it into the budget, I believe, in FY 17 or 18. I believe is when they were
17.
first introduced into the budget. I think we've been working on them from design. We had the engineer, I think, selected, and on each project, we awarded them at the same time. And engineer selected on each project probably late 2018. So that'd be FY 18 is when they were first introduced to the budget. And so since that time, we've gone through preliminary process. Old Lebanon Dirt Road, we've had some public input in there as far as what it needed to look like. And Golden Bear Gateway's had some similar issues as far as working out some conflicts on those. But on each project, I would say that we've gone through the process, a full survey, and down to right-of-way plans. So we're getting close to being ready to start acquiring right-of-way on both projects. So that, I would say it's been about, I'd say about a year and a half on each project that we've been working steadily.
Okay, you're about 20 minutes into your 10.
Mhm. All right. We can wrap that up. I did want to
Would you all like us
add,
to put those in that he wanted to talk about delaying?
Yes.
Okay, if you put those back in there.
yeah, sure.
We know that. If we know that will the bodies proceed on that, we can. We just trying to be good stewards.
Right.
So
My will is to not stop any transportation projects.
Gotcha.
All right.
We'll put those back
I
in.
did have one other project, which I emailed all the commission about last week. And the city of Mount Juliet was awarded a grant, a 95% grant. So very good, very limited expenses from the city standpoint. For Lebanon Road Sidewalks Phase 3, that's going to be from Benton Douglas Parkway. I believe that's right there at the new high school, New Green Hill High School. And that's going to connect from there to Nonneville Road. So with that project, once it's completed, you'll have sidewalks from the high school all the way down, all the way to the Lebanon Road Lightning. So I can get those numbers. Generally, you're looking at about $50,000 in city money.
I think we already passed this one.
We have a resolution for it. We just got to get it added into the budget. It's not shown in here right now. Last, get down to sewer.
Which page?
Let's get to
69 to 76.
Let me shoot for page 73. Probably better. Sewer line maintenance. Do have almost $150,000 deduction year over year, which this is important as this fits into our sewer rates. We also do have 2 vacant positions in this as well that we're holding right now. So that would increase our overall deduction year over year. The page 74, the sewer lift stations, which Ray was in here, he'd be very happy to note that I have added some additional odor control for the Nonneville Road sewer pump station. I know he gets accused of bad things every time he drives by it from his daughters. Royal Oaks, we have that. You may know that that's a new station going in right now, and so there was some question whether or not some of these items, ozone system, that's odor control, sprayer, it's the whole setup there. So that would be for that new station going in. It wasn't previously budgeted. It's hoped to reuse the equipment. There is some equipment that's going to be reused, but the electronic equipment is old and outdated and really is not going to service the new equipment. It's just not going to talk together that well.
Which one was this one?
Royal Oaks.
Royal Oaks.
Additionally, we do have $90,000 Central Pike pump upgrade.
Is that the new station or the one behind
That's
Springdale?
the new one.
They're both new, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's true. This is the one that is, you can actually access it from Central Pike south of the interstate. And that one is to install what we call variable frequency drive. It is a better type of pump. It can run at a slower speed longer, and it just keeps the liquid in there running at a more constant rate. It helps with corrosion, and also an odor. That is an item that if we see development project coming through, we're not going to do this right away. We're going to wait on that and see if a development might be able to come in and take that on, just take that cost on so the city doesn't have to. So we might not do that right away.
Is there any reuse for the existing pumps? They can't be that.
The
that
pumps themselves,
old. All 3 of them, I think.
yeah, the pumps themselves are fine, and it's basically the start to them. There's 2 different ways of doing it. There's soft start. There's variable frequency. Soft start's kind of a misnomer. It just sort of slowly ramps up the amperage to the pump. So this is
So it's really an
doesn't
upgrade
affect
more
the
than a
pump.
replace.
Right,
Gotcha.
yeah, it's an upgrade.
Andy, can I suggest that?
Sure.
And I don't know if you guys would be interested, but that grant, the 818, also covers sewer maintenance projects. So would you like Andy to potentially bring something forward that
Maybe we
might?
should put a list together of all the
That's
projects that are eligible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Andy, can you we'll get together and
Sure.
get a list, maybe the potential projects that could.
And if I may make this
The
statement
bridge
too,
widening
real
could
quick,
work, too.
since with Andy's in here, and I wanted to say, well, go before I let you come back. You know, like, for example, the speed humps and all that kind of thing, one of the things that I give Andy credit for, and our planning commission right now, is that we're requiring and trying to get a lot of the developers to come in to do that themselves in these neighborhoods. It's one of the things I know that I ask and other people to make sure that they're doing that so that we don't have to as a city.
Yeah. And I'll add this for Andy, that's a great point. I'll add this as well.
Yeah.
This commission, elected body stepping up and putting the funds into those projects at the state level, and Andy's relationship with TDOT, his past history there, and our attendance at these meetings in Nashville. There's a lot of great relationships that have been built. I think that's went a long way in some of the support we're getting. And Andy will tell you, there was a meeting that we were at this year actually, and we saw a lot of projects pulled out, a lot of cities, and there was a lot of folks very upset. And I looked down the list at all the projects we had on there, and every one of them was in.
And just look at what we got this week.
Yeah.
Right.
I know sometimes they're slow, they take a while, but
Well, man.
that's the same for everybody. They all fight that same battle.
I know. Well, this year, we've got 4 sidewalk greenway grants that are gonna be completed. And that was the first wave of projects that we had. We see the others, the roadway widening projects, are the second wave. And
You just
we're gonna
got a
start seeing that.
surprise grant on that, another addition
Mhm.
for the Lebanon Road.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
That was just so fantastic.
Pretty good stuff.
Last, not to take up too much time for y'all, is let's go to page 76. We have, well, I'm sorry, 75. Let's go to 75. Sewer line construction. I have been working with Steve Jones, Water Management Services, on our updated master plan, capital plan. I plan on presenting that to the commission at some point in time in the future, once we can actually meet in better circumstances. But we do have 3 new projects in there that are part of that plan. This is to initiate those projects. And so, I actually see a mistake. We have the Royal Oaks gravity sewer that is to our new pump station. The line going to it is actually has a lot of infiltration. It's in bad shape and in need of replacement. Stoner Creek Interceptor upgrade. Actually, no, that's not a mistake. That one, we are going to be able to do the engineering this year. This is phase 3. Basically, it's going to go from where we left off with our last project almost to Mount Juliet Road. That's also to help us in the event of high flow times. Last is Cedar Creek Interceptor upgrade. This is to help the flows to the pump station. This is going to be phase 1 of that area of increasing flows to that station. There's a lot of area around the Cedar Creek station. The station itself has capacity. There is a lot of area there that we do not have sewer capacity for. And so you'll see this one, you'll see another one coming probably next year to really try to increase capacity for new development in and around the Lebanon Road corridor area. So those are 3 new projects this year. I would say the Stoner Creek Interceptor, you'll see construction for that one next year. That one's going to be probably in the $3 to $4 million range. So that's going to be a big one coming up. As far as I think that has it. Any other questions on it?
I have one. On Providence Parkway, the reason I think it might be yours is because it's a drainage issue, a runoff issue on the sidewalk outside of Kroger.
Yes, I'm familiar
Okay,
with that.
that's a big thing. So is something like that repair in the budget, like some kind of repair already in there?
Yeah, we'll capture that under our highways and streets.
Uh-huh.
I'd have to look at specific area, but that is gonna be captured in our highways and streets section, probably page 43. Is a lot of our work that we have. I'm not sure exactly which line it would be under, probably 262 or something like that.
262.
Yes, correct.
Okay. But something needs to be done there. If that's, I wanted to make sure it was in
Sure.
there. Is there any way? Well, I don't know what the problem is as far as the drainage, but since the sidewalk kind of goes down like this, is there any kind of retaining wall we can build up to kind of hold that stuff in
Yes.
and keep that sidewalk clear?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that we've looked at that before. We've tried to make some small repairs in the past, but it continues to be a problem, so.
Do you know the source of the problem? I mean,
I think it's underground
underground.
runoff that's coming out right there.
Okay, yeah, that's a real.
What else you got for us, Andy?
That's it for me.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have questions?
The fence outside of Jonathan's, would that be a city beautiful question?
If it's busted,
It needs pressure, they either need to take it out or it needs pressure washing and fixing.
I think it was put up originally as part of the Providence development, the old green
Yeah.
fencing.
But
And
I think that's supposed to be the Jonathan's because
Yeah.
it's in front of their property.
If it's on
But
their
they're not
property, they would,
taking care
they would be responsible for it. But a lot of times if there's boards broken and things of that nature, we'll fix them or they just get busted and we take them down for safety reasons.
Would that be a city beautiful and it's been
I could look, it says by Jonathan's.
Yeah, that fence in front of Jonathan's.
Okay.
All righty.
I'll look at it.
Thanks, Andy. Mark? Park?
Yeah.
You're there, Rocky.
Ladies and gentlemen, how y'all doing?
I tried to steal your money a while ago.
Trying to steal my money.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Rocky has presented a really good budget for the most part. The only thing he had in there was, I think it was 5 new mowers, I believe it was.
Yeah, that's basically what we're looking for, and 3 tracts of land.
Or-
Is that the curveball you didn't want to?
Yeah, that's the one big one. The big one, probably the discussion item
That's-
would probably be,
The budget you'll be looking at this year that we're presenting is gonna be less than what we had last year, by quite a bit.
What page?
And we're 48 through 51.
And you got an updated 48, the Monday Park budget, because I got off the line. So it just,
And we
they did
did-
change the budget, it just dropped down the line.
We will be considering a Center Park Trail, I guess that's what it's called, a new park. It's 1.5 mile long, the new greenway that's been put in. And what we're looking for this year is 5 mowers. The reason for that is our warranty's up on the other 5 we got, and what we do, we're on 3 years or 1,200 hours. And we do that just so we don't have to keep repairing mowers. That's the reason we're looking at, and that's at $50,000. But besides that, everything else, we're under. Besides the big white elephant in the corner, and that's the 3 tracts of land.
yeah, there's 4 pieces. I'll put some maps there for you guys to take with you tonight and study on. 2 of them are a little more complicated than the others because of densities and open space and things of that nature, and that would have to be discussed in more depth at a later point. But we want to get that in front of you. There's a couple of properties that are just for sale outright. That one is, I believe, the Thompson property, and the other is the Shunk property where the putt is.
Yeah, putt. And Wood Tree.
So if the commission saw fit in this budget year to direct us to pursue any of those properties, we could do that.
Anybody got any questions for Rocky?
Just what if we got the Parks Board together and ranked these 4 suggested properties, just top to bottom, bring it back a suggestion?
I think they already have.
I don't think we've ranked them, have we?
Huh? I don't think we've ranked them. They're really pushing for all 3, but we can do that. We can prioritize the properties if that's what y'all like.
What 3 are you talking about?
The 3 we're talking right now are Wind Tree Golf Course, it's 70 acres. We're talking about Cedar Creek Putt, which is 13.5 acres. And we're talking about the Thomason property, which is 56, 57 acres.
And there's one in there that Mr. Lee apparently doesn't have his list, if the commission so chooses, this is because it was mentioned before, and that's the Balls property.
Yeah,
But
we-
again, those have a few more moving pieces in them. That would be a commission decision. It may not be anything the city would want to pursue.
And how many acres is that property?
Wintry?
No, the
No.
last one.
Oh, Vault's
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 85. It's 85.
Can we get something in writing on these different deals? That would be really helpful.
Yeah, I did, and I put some of the information tonight at y'all's spot, but I know you just got it tonight, so you had a chance to look at it. That's because a lot of that came in late from some of the property owners, but the other, as far as it's just got outright prices on it. The two larger tracts of land, they're the ones that would want to know about, maybe possibly, for example, the Balls extension of sewer down Golden Bear in exchange for.
I mean, I'm interested in hearing details on that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got at least one that is kind of time sensitive that you need to think about. I'm conflicted, so I can't get involved in it, but it needs to be taken into consideration that we've got the gentleman out here that owns a business and has got an approval to build on his land over there. Well, when he was approached, obviously he's got money that needs to be expended to continue with that, and he's got everything on hold. So there needs to be something given to him, a yay or a nay or something, at least an indication that, yeah, as a city, we're interested, so that he knows whether to move forward or not. He's got several pieces in the air just holding in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that's costing him interest. So
Get it?
So it's kind of a bad spot to be in, I think. So if we could just give him an indication of, and I think we're talking about Mr. Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, the City Creek Sports Center. He's not a big developer guy. He doesn't have lots of money. And so, if we're costing him thousands of dollars a month, it's kind of.
Well, I'm sure he's pursuing other sales.
He can't right now.
We're not under contract.
Not a matter of being under contract. It's a matter of the city came to him and he would rather sell this to the city. He made several comments. One of the biggest comment was, that 20 years from now, he could drive through there and see that it was a city park and he contributed to that. That to him means a lot. Now,
I mean,
with that kind of mentality.
He's got an approval for townhomes. He ought to be out there actively marketing the property.
Well,
Until we-
he's got to get
until we get-
developers that do that.
Until we
That's not his job.
until we offer a contract, he shouldn't be sitting around waiting on us.
Well, as a city, kind of went to him. So, hey, you're not that hard.
Huh?
You ain't that cold blooded.
I'm not being coy. Obviously, I might be actively marketing it.
Oh, he has been. I mean, he's to the point
There
of signing
was,
papers and stopped, just short because of the city going to him and saying, hey, would you be interested?
No,
He
well,
said yes.
Wow.
she
And
said
then he's
there
been
was
put on
one
hold ever
change.
since then, waiting.
Mayor, I was
48.
looking, the packet that I gave you guys with all the park information, I know you just got it. It's got a lot of that information in it. I still lack information on the Balls property, and I'll get that to you in a little more detail in writing about what they're looking for.
It just looks the same to me.
Mr.
It
Lee,
says 17.5.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys.
who's next?
Jamie.
The 17,500 just got hidden in the one in the book.
Okay, so.
The numbers didn't
Those are
change on the
for
bottom.
sure.
The numbers didn't
Oh,
change,
I
just
understand.
the
That
line
was
items.
throwing me off.
Yeah,
Like,
sorry.
I thought, well, maybe my book was.
I had to
correct.
ask when I
I
came in.
understand.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I asked.
That's not $13,000 for flags.
Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party.
I was just asking, where's the pit of misery? They said this, there.
No.
Dilly dilly.
Yes. Okay, we're on page 56, emergency services.
Let me ask you real quick. Is that accurate? The 2035 is what came in this year? 2,035,000?
Yeah, actually.
Should all be in, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, about 98% of it is in,
Is
but
that-
yes.
Is that an accurate number?
How did you then get the 2099 projected?
I always contact the county assessor's office and ask them for their latest assessment. And so what I do is run the numbers based off their latest assessment. So that's how I come up with the 2099.
Are you counting in the new projects that have come online that'll be paying?
If they were constructed this year, they won't hit the books until next year. So unless they're completed by January 1, they don't come on the tax rolls until the January of the next year.
Okay.
You get a freebie.
Yes, sir.
Well, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. Of course, this budget represents a conservative approach given the current state that we're in, the uncertain financial future. So we've made some significant cuts to what was originally planned in the hopes that then times strengthen, that we can go back and revisit the requests.
Yes, sir. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
That's pretty much it.
Is there a reason that, now I'm looking at your sheet, not his sheet. But you had the adequate emergency service fee was budgeted at 430,000. It came in at 1.2 million.
That was because of Amazon.
Project Sam, yeah. But then you didn't carry it all the way to the last column.
Are you talking about the BOC column?
Yes.
Well, I don't typically carry that over until you guys vote on it. I usually leave that last column. The only reason I did the property tax is
It is what it is.
yeah. Yeah. So unless there are some adjustment that you guys want to make, then I will carry that over to the third column.
And then at the top of that column, it says tax rate 39 cents. What does that mean?
Where's that?
Yeah, it's on the very top sheet. It may have been left over.
It's probably when we were debating.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That needs to be, no, it's 16 cents.
It does say
I'm
16
sorry.
under that.
Yes, it's calculated at 164.
He's got 3 different rates.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was left over from previous years. That should not be on there.
Anybody got any questions for the chief?
So this budget includes the new deputy chief.
That is correct.
I know 2 of the things that were justifications for this were FEMA aid and then the responding with the paperwork from that. And just kind of curious as to why we're pushing this off to July.
Well, that's one of them. I have a list of others.
Yeah, I think 5 or 6 items listed.
Yes. We're still, Dana and I are still, well, and all the other department heads are still working with FEMA for the paperwork from the tornado. We're obviously the safety needs processes and protocols that we're doing with the COVID-19 event. This process, the budget process, plans for the North District Station, possible additional personnel for the North District Station, and the inspections that are going to be required when Project Sam comes on with 3.6 million square feet.
And I think my understanding was 90 days after we passed the budget last time that we would see an assistant chief. Now it's been 7 months ago.
Yes, yes. No, there was, the need has always been there. But during this time last year, during conversations with the city manager and with senior staff at the department, there was a desire by those officers to take on more responsibilities. And so I delegated those responsibilities, some very specific projects. Education was one, maintenance of vehicles was another, things along those lines. And unfortunately, with guys that are working 2 days on and 4 days off, it's hard within 90 days to find out basically if they're going to sink or swim. But they've all done very well with it. It has been labor intensive on their part, but it was just something that 90 days, I didn't want to give them a project that they wanted and then take it back before we saw, results.
Okay.
We actually met quite often through the transition period and talked about that. And Jamie knew that he had the green light if he wanted to, but to his credit, he decided to wait a little longer. And unfortunately for him, by the time he got to the point where he was ready to proceed, we were right in the middle of the tornado and also COVID-19. So, and I told him, I said, well, if you feel like you need that personnel, let's do it. And we were going to bring a budget amendment forward, and then that all got delayed because of the situations we've had, and we decided just to bring it up at the budget.
If he needed that for the FEMA response or COVID-19 under the state of emergency, could have that been approved at that point?
I don't know if we were just had discussed it actually at that point. I don't know that it was just it's pressing at that point is what it is now.
Well, those were early on in that process. The tornado had just finished up. I mean, closed up command post Friday the 13th at 6 p.m. and Saturday morning woke up to my phone and COVID-19. We were over there at Valley Center and hadn't heard that much about the impending pandemic.
If I recall correctly, we put an email out though, I think, just basically.
Yes, I sent one to the elected body, yes.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Well, this is the deputy chief's an improvement, but cost is up 18% over last year's model. Response is 50% less bodies, and it provides 30% less labor. So, but it's apparently as good as we can get right now.
Other questions for the chief, or is there just political statements?
Well, we can go political statements, but
Come on, guys.
I'm not.
I've still got to go get ice cream, so go to the help.
He's the one that started it.
I understand. It's just,
Last year, he told us the sky was falling and we had to have a 3 times tax increase, and we're in pretty darn good shape, aren't
No,
we?
we're still on your taxing, your property tax.
We're in good shape too, aren't we?
Well, not due to that.
okay.
All right, thank you.
Well, hold on a second. I'm not done.
Oh, come on, man, they're sticking around to see me barbecue. Act like you're gonna throw something at me. But just act.
Yes.
It'll make it so soft.
Be my
Okay,
point.
so I'm looking at something here before you jump up and go.
Oh, man, that's just.
And somebody help me, if you would. Go all the way to page 59. So $2,735,943 down.
That's estimated fund balance.
Correct.
End of this year.
And so we're going to be, what, 600,000 basically?
600,000 what?
With the remainder.
At the end of next year, or?
What?
No, we'll start with 2.7 this year.
Right, but I'm talking about after everything is said and done, everything is paid for. What are we looking? I mean, we were looking at a deficit last year, so where are we at now?
No, we're pretty well break even. This
Break even.
budget has just slightly more revenue than it does expenditures budgeted. So we're going to end at the same place, about the same place that we began. So 2.7 is what we're looking at ending at, based on this budget.
So what would be the fund balance after?
2.7.
2.7. So no deficit.
No, this budget actually, if you look at the below that where it says surplus and deficit, under city manager side, we're
Is
at
that on
about
60?
at a 60, and it's on 59.
59?
We're at about almost a $30,000 surplus.
You say 30,000?
$30,000 surplus.
29,706 right here.
Yeah, 29,076. Is, under normal circumstances, isn't that cutting things real close?
No, we're just gonna come out ahead. We're
I
adding
understand, but I
30,000
mean-
more to,
Okay.
well, I mean, it's
My point,
I would like to
$30,000
more revenue than
is,
expenditures, but
yeah, what, half of one person's salary?
close.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, when we're talking about property tax, paying for something, so I just think it's a bit close.
Well, you're not gonna be able to add firefighters under this.
And this is without the firefighters.
Correct, yeah.
It's
It
with
it
one.
does include
No,
it does include the
Well, there's
deputy,
one,
but
it's got the the
Deputy
assistant
chief.
chief, right?
Yeah, it does
full-time
include the
chief.
deputy chief, but it
Okay.
does not include the 6 firefighters.
Okay.
So to do a phase in with these 6 positions, since it's not in the budget, say 2, 2, and 2, what fund would that come from? Out of the
It'll
general
come,
fund?
no, well, it'll come from this budget, and you have $1 million surplus that came in this year, which is giving you a buffer, but it's going to put this particular year at a deficit, which means it's gonna eat into your reserves a little bit. But then you had $1 million more this year, so,
It would come out of the fund balance.
yeah, you're still coming out,
It would, you could do it, but there's no guarantee you can keep doing it.
right?
But hopefully with the new building, that will happen. When we get out of this pandemic, then we'll have those revenues come in to sustain those new.
If there's new buildings, you're not gonna have a Project SAM every year, so that was a.
No, but hopefully we'll have more residents coming. And you've got the impact fee and all that too.
Got 2 new schools coming on. They're gonna pay it.
You're talking about 222, what do you mean by 2 every 3 months or?
Or something, rather than the whole thing at once?
I mean, I agree, we need bodies. We need full-time personnel to, kind of augment our losses with volunteers.
Did we lose volunteers?
I think we took about a 40% loss in volunteers from this time last year.
Wow.
I think we cut our volunteer chief coordinator out of the budget last year.
So these would be 6 full-time positions.
Yes, and if you'll see on budget highlights, she talks about the cost of the 6 full firefighters was $436,000, or bringing them in after the half year, if there is, a firm financial positive future, $218,000.
Yeah, ask away.
Chief,
Yes.
one of the things that we discussed when PD was in here,
Mhm.
was one of the options of the hardened facility for dispatch.
Right.
Was that the new station? Can you comment on that possibility?
Yes, now this was quite a few designs ago, but what it was to be is a tornado room. And in that would be a much scaled down version of the dispatch, just a place, fallback place for them in the event that PD had been struck. But they have such, they have access to very sensitive databases there. And I'm not sure that having that away out from under their control would be in the best interest.
Okay, hold on a second. That's the most political, non-political answer I've ever heard. Good job, by the way.
I was supposed to be.
The databases are obviously can be connected, and dispatch can be connected by
Yeah, this was
computers.
just for 2 consoles. This
Yeah,
was
we're
just a
talking about,
concept, yeah.
we're talking about a hardened dispatch
Mhm.
and within the fire hall.
Mhm.
Is there any reason why that couldn't be? Because my understanding is that's a big building.
I thought it was a viable option.
I think it is a very viable option, but
It might be 1.3 million more.
well, I want to know what the cost is. Now, of course, that'll take us 17 years to get that out of an architect.
But then
so-
what does it do to the timeline?
Yeah, who in the world knows?
Yeah, they should be able to do that relatively quick.
I would think.
Well, the concept was just, like I said, it was 2 consoles, fallback in the event that something went wrong at PD, and then every 3rd Wednesday of the month, have the dispatchers come up and run an 8-hour shift out of there so that when they did have to utilize the facility, they'd be already familiar with it.
Okay, so what would be the harm in them building a hardened location?
That's the first I've heard of that right there. And Chief and I have really not had this discussion.
No, he and I have talked about this before, so I'm not.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying this first I've heard of this,
Yeah.
what he's talking about.
What the problem is, I mean, to do that obviously gives them an alternative, but we're talking about the fact that they're in a metal building. And if a tornado of the magnitude of what hit up here were to hit them, then obviously we'd be pulling dispatchers out of twisted metal. So that's not something we want to see happen.
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, I welcome the discussion, the conversation with Chief Hambrick, Chief Mullins, and Tyler, Captain Chandler,
How many square feet is that building going to be?
10,000.
10,000 square feet.
For,
The fire hall, the North District Fire Hall.
Would you like the chief to get with the designers and find out a comparison on what it take to have the same square footage to the fire station in lieu of the police station? That way you have a,
I think to be a viable option, we need that. I think we had 4, maybe some people thought 3, but I thought 4 when everybody left today.
that's something you can do.
It shouldn't be much. I mean, the room's already going to be a tornado room, and it's going to have our radio comms in there, a couple of consoles for firefighters to do their reports.
Do y'all share dispatch now, correct?
No, sir. No, sir, we don't.
So who dispatches you?
Police.
That's the reason that's why I said y'all share dispatch.
Oh, yes. I mean, I thought you meant in
The
location
service,
wise.
not
Yeah.
the function, or
Mhm.
not the
Right.
physical, but
Yes,
the service itself
that's
you
correct.
share, right? So your dispatchers have access now functionally for both fire and police, correct?
Yes, at PD. Yes.
Okay. So I guess, I mean, as far as dispatchers go, they're probably not going to be accessing sensitive information for the most part.
I'd have to defer to Chief Hambrick, the details on that.
That's a system, is all it is.
Additional question, with the closing of Meridian to move the chief up here, where would the deputy chief go?
If the deputy chief is approved in the budget, it's right across the hall. The office that the Chief Luffin would take would be right there on the left, actually right here. I'm sorry, through the doorway there on the left. And then there's an office right across.
Is that a permanent
Mm-mm.
situation, or just until the new
Just
fire
till the
building?
new,
Okay.
yeah, to the new station.
That saves us a little bit also in our budget through police and fire as well. And Chief and I talked about that.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenny, back to Kenny. Closing comments from you.
No, I appreciate everybody. I mean, it's, like I said, it's unique times that we're all dealing with right now. Appreciate everybody's time tonight. If the commission sees fit to want to have another workshop, we can definitely do that. We're here to make sure all the questions are answered. I'm proud of staff. I know they've worked hard. The city has been getting after it in general. We were doing really well up until March with sales tax revenues. Our businesses were doing well. We continue to pray for them. It's unfortunate what our society's dealing with, and to get a double whammy with both the the tornado and the COVID, it's very unfortunate, but the city's done well in the past and been very conservative. I think that's put us in a lot better position than a lot of other cities. Miss Dana came from a sister city, and she'll tell you a lot of cities would be blessed to be in the position that we're in. I'm proud of not only just police and fire, I'm proud of every staffer here and every citizen that's joined forces to get us through this. We've had countless phone calls from other communities saying, how do we do what we did? And a lot of kudos to go out to this entire community for that. And that's the truth. We're living it, so maybe we don't realize it, but I think everybody sitting in this room, the people out there, at some point will sit back and see what happens in other communities, and hopefully you'll be quite proud of what you've seen here. Very proud of that.
I'm very proud. Yep, we did. No discussion about a raised tax. Incredible. Last year, the sky was falling. This year, everything's hunky-dory. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Speaking of politics.
Well, it's funny that it's an election year and there's no discussion of a tax, but last year there was a discussion of the tax.
And an extra tax got passed, and look at that. When you add a tax, it just all worked out.
Yes.
We're still with still half staff with the state, with the fire department we've got now, but no one's bringing that up.
Now, is that right? Is that true?
No, I'm sorry.
Mr. City Manager, is that true?
With staffing?
He said we're half staffed.
You cannot, according to standards, bring 15 people when you only have 7 on shift. It's
Yeah,
just
there was
difficult.
20 on the SEVA fire. That's what you told me.
Yes, sir.
22 actually. 12 of those were from Mount Juliet. Required mutual aid. Drained the entire side of this side of Wilson County.
And
From
what fire
Lebanon?
doesn't require mutual aid of that significance?
Yeah,
We
well-
go to them too. Anyway,
Standards would have been 43, but that's beside the point.
I think we're adjourned.
Yes.
I think it's a really good idea. I need ice cream.
43.
I'm going to go.